Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
It's called AirText Plus. The mobile office is now a true, cost-effective win-win reality because being available and part of the communication chain keeps you in control. Visit us at www.airtext.aero for more information and get started staying in touch today.
For all the pilots, mechanics, and installers, plane makers, aviators, and explorers, we are your technicians, inspectors, designers, and engineers. Your right seat, your compass, your base. So rock your wings, slice the horizon, set your own course. Know that we'll be there. Our expertise reflected in each instrument we rebuild or repair. In the products we design, reimagine, and invent. We certify and test, evaluate and inspect. In the power we harness from tip to tail, we connect you and protect you. So blaze your own trail, because our people, our products, our promise flies with you. We are Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics. It's who we are. It's what we do.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Build and fly with the most exciting line of kit aircraft on the market, the Sonex Aircraft B models. The B models offer more room and comfort, more fuel, more panel space, more engine choices, and the same great Sonex Aircraft flight characteristics. Learn more at sonexaircraft.com.
Based on the popular Sling 2 LSA, the Sling 4 was designed to be the most practical and desirable lightweight four-place experimental aircraft on the market. Find out more about this 115 horsepower turbocharged airplane at airplanefactory.com.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Concord's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concord's entire line of batteries at www.concordbattery.com. Concord, the heart of your aircraft.
All right.
We're back. You guys didn't learn anything yesterday. Here you are. We're back. It is the 62nd, get that right from the beginning, AEA Convention and Trade Show in Palm Springs Convention Center in Palm Springs, California. Today is the third day of our live programming, live from AEA 2019. You saw the opening sessions, the handoff between Paula Dirks and Mike Adamson, the election and confirmation of Gary Joyce as chairman of the board, and then of course 28 new products. Among those new products were those introduced by Bendix King. We're here with Stefan Fiumat, VP of Product Marketing. Stefan, tell us what's new at Bendix King.
So at Bendix King, we've been very, very busy over the last 12 months. At this show, we've announced 3 categories of new products. This includes autopilots, engine monitors, and navigators. Now, all 3 of these are done in partnership with other members of AEA, with other companies. So we've been doing quite a bit. And so if you want me to get into a little bit more detail, so for the autopilots, we've partnered with TrueTrack, which is a leading provider of experimental autopilots, and now also certified autopilots. And so we're working with them. We've announced it as the Aero-Cruise 100 and the X-Cruise 100. Okay, and these are, more affordable autopilots for experimental and certified aircraft owners, who want to put an autopilot into their aircraft. Next are engine monitors, and with this we're working with JP Instruments. Mm-hmm. And so here we've announced three engine monitors. One of them is for experimental aircraft, which is called X-Point 100, and then 2 certified models. And the 2 certified models are called Aero-Point 200 and 300. Mm-hmm. A bit of a misnomer because the Aero-Point 200 is for single engine aircraft, and the Aero-Point 300 is for twin engine aircraft.
There you go.
Yep. And then the next thing is navigators. So here we've partnered with Avidyne, mm-hmm. A company that's been around a very long time as well, and who has a wonderful navigator. And so that is going to be the Aero-Nav 800, 900, and 910. Okay. Now with all of these partners, initially we start out, we're partnering with them and taking their product to all of our customers through all of our channels. But then over the near future, you'll hear more from us as we start doing more and more constructive technological work with them to bring it together mm-hmm. Into an even more seamless solution.
It's an interesting mix of products. You're covering areas that, at least in the engine monitor area, that's something we haven't seen a whole lot, anything new in that area, so mm-hmm. we're glad to see additional players. Of course, partnering with JP is, as they say, it's not rocket surgery. They're good folks, they know what they're doing.
Yes.
The Avidyne selection is a very good one. I've got a lot of experience with their products, having been an R9 operator and owner for quite some time, and found some of their work to be some of the best in the business, especially when it came to menuing, orthodoxy, just the way you set up priorities, the simplicity of being able to undertake complex tasks, which in other systems could take dozens upon dozens of button pushes, switches, this, that, and the other,
right.
which were far more simplified under the
right.
Avidyne methodology. And of course, in autopilots right now, the problem with autopilots for the longest period of time is they just got more and more and more expensive, and the feature set didn't change. And then with this revolution that's occurred now with these folks working into the experimental industry and then beyond, it's certainly changed the price point, and it's made other companies who have been in that space at premium value, shall we say, have to pay attention. So seeing Bendix King provide that kind of oomph behind it is pretty solid, pretty important.
Yeah, and for us, there's a number of things going on in why we're doing this. One part of it is, as you well know, the certified marketplace and the experimental aircraft marketplace really starting to blend, right? It's no longer that hard wall that was there before. Mm-hmm. And so even as experimental vendors are coming into the certified space, it makes sense for certified vendors to go to the experimental space. The other thing that's sort of driving us is really a sense of openness. Mm-hmm. You mentioned to me right before we get on the interview about philosophy and psychology of what's going on inside of Bendix King. And that could be summarized by one word, which would be openness, right? Being open to allowing things to work well together. We don't have to make it all, but we can help enable that everything works well together. And beyond the benefits that it brings to the partner companies, to us, it brings benefit to owners, right? Owners are not locked in. Owners can pick and choose some of what they want and bring it together and have it work well. Outstanding.
The ability for companies to cooperate and work together in this industry is somewhat unique. In many other industries, especially in high-tech areas, everybody's the dirty, filthy, nasty competition and the like. So reaching out and building relationships is something that's fairly unique to the avionics segment. I mean, there's people out here who realize it's better to do some business together than no business separately.
Right.
How do you qualify a partner like this? Because let's face it, while all three have decent reps, although one is fairly new in the sequence there, they're messing with your rep at that point if they don't perform.
That's true. That is true. And vice versa, frankly, right? We have to deliver for them, right?
Absolutely.
We provide customer support and sales, and we have to represent them as well as they would. So how we qualify them, in most cases, we've been very, very fortunate because we oftentimes they start out as suppliers, right? We start out, using them as a supplier for something, so we get to know them.
Yeah. The dating period.
The dating period, if you wish, right? Sometimes a very extended dating period. But this allows us to get to know them, get to know their people, get to know their engineers, the products. Many of our people will fly their products in their airplanes. So this way, it's not just a blind date and then let's get married. There's more of a get to know you process.
Okay. The industry overall right now has been a little turbulent in that everybody, of course, has been pushing for better positioning for ADS-B 2020.
Yes.
Right around the corner. The big question is among a number of the members of the community as to whether or not the FAA will give on the date, and current indications are not going to happen. But looking beyond the push through 2020, how do you see Bendix King positioning itself for building a healthy business after all the fuss is over?
So if you're asking me about just sort of overall product lines, right? So there are four sort of major directions that Bendix King is pursuing, right? One of them, as you're rightly pointing out, is ADS-B, right? Now we know, and everybody knows, that after the peak of 2019 and some tail in 2020, things will taper off a little bit, and then there'll be some waviness as other countries put in the mandate, and that's already part of our business plans. There's three other areas that we're really focused on. One is integrated flight decks. So you probably know that last year we launched the AeroView integrated flight deck. We recently got an USTC for the Black Hawk version of the King Air B200, in addition to the regular King Air B200 that we have right now. And we're extending that platform into many other retrofit opportunities. And we will do more around integrated flight decks with AeroView and beyond that. The second major area is with our individual avionics component units, such as some of the products we announced today. So, many people will put in a whole flight deck. Many people will not. They just want one instrument or one flight display. And so there's plenty of activity there. And then the fourth area is what we call connected aircraft. Connected aircraft, it's the one place in the world right now where once you're up at altitude, other than the radio with ATC, you're really pretty disconnected, right? And so if you are flying over the United States, you have ADS-B weather and you can get data link weather. But if you leave the United States, say you like to fly to the Bahamas, right? You are now disconnected from ground-based weather. 4Flight's not going to show you the most current weather. And so providing products and services that help connect aircraft all the time for things such as weather, or being able to take phone calls or web for the passengers or whatever, we see that as a big area. We see that as an area where we have unique competence, capability, competence, and products. So you'll see more and more from us there as well.
Interesting. The overall industry is seeing some changes now from a standpoint of how avionics has led much of general aviation and to a certain extent business aviation. The rate of change, the rate of innovation, the disruption, if you will, from avionics have certainly outpaced airframes, certainly outpaced power plants, and certainly given the regulatory environment something to deal with as well. Is this something that's sustainable, and where does Bendix King fit into all this right now when everybody is out there figuring out how to one-up the other while also cooperating in certain ventures? Where do you see yourself going, and how innovative can you be when you're up against the rest of the industry simultaneously?
Well, for us, the pace is only getting faster, right? So we're actually putting the throttle to max position in what we're doing. We are fortunate. We're part of Honeywell, so we have a lot of resources.
Doesn't hurt, does it?
No, it does not. Not in terms of human capital, in terms of global coverage, in terms of financial wherewithal. We have that staying power, right? And so it's up to us to do something with it. The industry is innovating, and you mentioned that airframes and power plants have not changed all that much, historically. But there are some
not to the extent that avionics has.
Yes, but there are some new things afoot now. I mean, now urban air taxi, even though there's yet a vehicle that's going to be flying just yet, but it's but that whole movement is really taking off, and we the collective we of Bendix King and Honeywell are really sort of going into that direction. And when you go into that direction, it's new power plants, it's new aircraft configurations, it's new methods of lift or combined methods of lift, and that forces changes in avionics, right? What the pilot wants to see on that screen is going to be different, and how we have to be in order to satisfy that pilot and that aircraft is different. And so it drives something which we haven't seen too much of in the industry lately is flexibility. Those displays will not all look the same. Right? So we have to be flexible, we have to be innovative, and we are pushing that forward. And so I think that we're going to go into a period where it's not just avionics, it's going to be everything else that's going to change too. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the unmanned and autonomous segment. We produce programming for AUVSI on the commercial unmanned side, and for AEMA on the hobby drone side. And watching the development, for that matter, just trying to keep up with the news each week is a full-time chore. At the same time, let's face it, a good 50% of it is smoke and mirrors. But the part that isn't is stunning.
Yes.
And trying to keep up with that, I mean, considering the fact that these are going to be primarily electronic systems and electric powered,
yes,
indicates that there's a big job ahead for anybody trying to plunge into that market. Both from the standpoint of monitoring what's going on, as well as now predicting what's happening to the health of the vehicle, the health of its systems, the health of its current autonomous systems, or whether it's ground-based control. That's a big job.
Yes, and it's it's interesting because all these innovations are really driving change, right? And we are already engaged with many of the urban air taxi developers, manufacturers, and other like vehicles. And one of the things that we already do is we allow people to completely customize parts of the display, right? They can do it, we can do it for them. They can do the type certificate, we can do the STC, either way. But a lot of aircraft companies come to us and say, look, I don't have 2 engines, I've got 18 engines, or I've got 6 engines, and I need electric indications, not fuel indications. And we say, well, let's work on it. And it's something we're able to do right now. So this actually helps them in their innovation, right? And so that is very nice to see, and it makes us better, regardless of what happens, smoke or mirrors or not. It makes us better.
Well, it's going to be a fabulously difficult industry to cover. It's going to be a very turbulent industry because it is attracting a lot of folks with means, resources, and not necessarily the vision to be able to put it all together.
Yes. Yes.
So we're going to see a lot of companies by the wayside, but at the same time, the stuff that is showing promise right now is beyond belief.
I think also a very, very interesting thing that may happen, and I think all of us as industry participants can really contribute to this, is we can all contribute to make this market. And what I mean by making the market is, if these vehicles and these services really come to bear, then a large portion of the general population will for the first time be exposed directly to general aviation, a form of general aviation, right? They will be exposed to the convenience of flight. And once you've had the taste, you may decide you want more of it. And so we have a whole new population who now might be interested in doing more than just getting on an air taxi. They may decide they want to fly themselves. And so that's a marketing and an exposure and a market expansion that all of us can benefit from.
Boy, talk about serious potential.
Yep.
Yeah, I can just imagine the bean counters are back there going, okay, we're liking this. This is good stuff.
Yes,
Ready.
exactly.
At the same time, though, the folks have to manage these programs are kind of going, oh, I got a headache.
Yep.
It's going to be tough to keep up with. There's been some turbulence on the political side of things in light of the Boeing controversies and, of course, the way media has so poorly covered it. But it's built a sense of let's do something on the part of politicians that could overtly and negatively affect certification parameters, the ability to certify, and the authorities that we're going to be dealing with for the future. Do you see the current let's litigate or criminalize aspects of certification or false certification as something that concerns you?
So it's not something that we at Bendix King have seen or felt in any way yet, right? I mean, we read the newspapers like everybody else, so we haven't seen this yet. It would for sure be a concern depending on which direction it went.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's all about the safety of the aircraft, right? Certification or not, right? It's especially us because we play in experimental. You have to put something up there that is safe,
yeah.
right? And however you go about, verifying that.
Well, the hard thing to communicate to general media is that for whatever little bits and pieces that tend to make them suspicious of the process, aviation's never been safer. The process has never been smoother. The products are increasingly complex day by day and far more innovative, and
yes.
yet ultimately they're working.
Yes.
No matter what you may think about current news, and let's face it, the data on that is far from complete. It's difficult to believe that ultimately there's something truly wrong with the system.
Right, and I guess we would say, without knowing all the details of everything that transpired,
yeah.
One issue among hundreds and thousands of certifications
Bingo.
that occur every year, yes, it should be looked into, but it should also be viewed in context of the grander scheme of things.
All that being said, let's wrap up with the toughest question of the bunch. What can we expect next from Bendix King? Just between you, me, and
everybody in the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're not going to draw me out like that. However,
we could try.
I would say this: if you will, quote unquote, watch this space over the next 3 or 4 weeks, there will be more things coming out of Bendix King that will be very interesting for everybody involved.
Okay. Can we expect announcements by Oshkosh?
Yes, you can expect announcements before Oshkosh.
Excellent. Very
yes.
good. Well, Stefan, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us at Aero-News and the airborne programming team. We'll look forward to seeing what's next from Bendix King, and more important, getting out into the real world and flying some of the new gear. In the meantime, how can people get more information on Bendix King?
Well, they can always go to our website. That's going to be www.bendixking.com.
All righty. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All righty, folks, we're coming up on a short, what we call a soft break. Coming up next is Peter Campbell, VP of Engineering from PS Engineering, followed by a number of folks. We've got timers, we've got engine gauges, we've got GA avionics, we've got lithium batteries, you name it. We've got a ton of subjects to deal with. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We've got almost 3 hours of programming to follow, so we'll be back with you in a few minutes. This is the Aero-News Network at AEA 2019, live from the Palm Springs Convention Center in Palm Springs, California, the 62nd annual convention. Be back in a minute. folks. Once again, we're well into our third day of live programming from the AEA Convention and Trade Show in Palm Springs, California. This is the 62nd annual AEA event, and for us, it's the 11th we've live streamed. We really enjoy working with the AEA staff. And of course, there have been big changes this year as Paula Dirks is retired and Mike Adamson has taken over, which means that we've got to break in a new boss. So give us a little bit of time to get that done, but we'll be sure to beat up Mike pretty good and get him just right, whipped into shape. In the meantime, a perennial favorite for our interview series, it's been a number of folks from PS Engineering. We either get Mark or Gary, and this time Peter Campbell has lost the toss, and here he is, VP of Engineering for PS Engineering. What's new?
We've got a lot new. Really, our focus the last few years has been special mission and business audio. So we announced a couple of new products on Monday here, and just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about those.
Okay.
So basically, we've spent really the last 4 years doing R&D in this product line, and it's the PAC 45 family of products. We came out with the PAC 45 2 years ago, and we announced the A and the J this year. And really, the message we're trying to get out is there's more to come. We're really committed to this market. It's kind of a change for us, but it's an exciting market and one that we think we can bring a lot of value to. But really what we're going after are both rotary and fixed wing aircraft with these audio panels. They're winding up in police, fire, medevac, forestry service aircraft, even business and private aircraft as well. Just bring a lot of value there. So some of the benefits of this family of products, one, they're all digital, which is kind of the trend we've been going in as an audio company. So you get a lot of benefits there with the digital architecture. They're very quiet. They're, of course, stereo, like all of our products are for the most part. They have the Bluetooth built in, which everybody likes for both phone and tablet connectivity. So that's really convenient. One of the neat things about the whole PAC 45 family for us is that they're very easy to install. So for our dealers and installers, you've got aircraft where you've got multiple crew members, so pilot, co-pilot, up to 2 other mission personnel. So you've got audio panels all over these aircraft, but you only have to bring all your audio wiring to one place. So there's a centralized hub that lives in the avionics bay, and it's very easy to install. It also keeps the noise down, and the wiring is very simple. So all these control heads just have a simple data connection from the hub out to wherever they are in the cabin. So we've been getting some good feedback on that with the PAC 45 family. And then, of course, they're NVG compatible, which is good for some users. Another benefit of these panels that we mentioned in our new product announcement is the labeling on them can be customized. So you can label your comms and your navs and all that with whatever is unique to that particular aircraft. You just call the factory, and in 10 days we can turn around a custom bezel that's very durable, looks really good, and fits that exact aircraft. So that's been well received as well. They support, of course, SATCOM input. They've all got our IntelliVox automatic Vox technology, which has really been one of the hallmarks of our company for a long time now. And one of the newer features that it's slowly gaining some momentum is multi-talker. We mentioned that with the PAC 45 a few years ago, and it's been in our PMA 450 series for 4 years now. But with the special mission audio panels where you've got 6 or 8 comm that you're listening to, the multi-talker makes it a whole lot easier to comprehend and understand and respond to activity on those radios, because it'll basically, instead of everything being in mono in your headset, you can spatially place those sources in your headset. So you can hear somebody's coming from this side or over here or in front, and it just makes it a lot easier to tune in to whatever's important to you at the time. It's kind of a hard sell, in all honesty, to this market, because it's a mono-dominated audio market. So it's really been a little bit difficult to get people to try it and go to stereo. But the people that do listen to it, they're like, wow, okay, that really does make a difference. And it's just one of those neat technologies that we're proud to bring to the market. And we got that from the Air Force, actually, which designed it basically for that application where they've got fighters or jets up there that are having to listen to a lot of stuff, and they're just trying to lighten the workload for the pilot. So it's a real benefit of these panels if we can get the stereo installation.
Outstanding. Where do you see both your principal as well as your most immediate potential markets for these lines right now?
Well, like I say, we've got a lot of police installations. That's probably been the most popular. And then, of course, the medevac market is pretty big for us. There's been a lot of interest from the forestry industry, and we've got some installs in firefighting applications. So that's really where our special mission panels are targeted, is going after those markets specifically. And then, so that's on the special mission helicopter side. Of course, also this system kind of lends itself well to the jet market, the smaller turbine market. So that's where we're kind of aiming the J part of the family. It differentiates itself from the special mission in that it supports oxygen mask microphones. You've got native switching for those, and that will even continue to work. And fail-safe, if the system is to lose power, you can still switch between your boom and your oxygen mask mic while you're in fail-safe, so you can talk on your fail-safe radio. And then we've also got nav-aid filtering, so you can filter out your voice channel or the ident tone on your nav-aid receivers. So all that functionality is built into the hub, which is common to all these applications, but the control heads are what differentiates those different markets for us.
Interesting. What led you to attack this segment of the market? You had such a strong background in GA, still do. It's not like you've run away from that in any way, shape, and form. But what was it that piqued your interest?
Right. Well, you're right. We're still, very much committed to the GA market. We're not abandoning those users at all. But really, the technologies were so similar between the two that we felt like we had a lot of value we could contribute to this market. And really, one of the big drivers for us was the multi-talker, because nobody had it in the special mission applications at that time. And really, that technology is designed for the high workload, lots of comms, and this market just seemed like a perfect fit for that.
Well, we are. Interesting. What might be expecting in the future on the GA side of thing? Anything in the works?
Well, we're always listening to what our dealers and pilots and users, what they want. So we're definitely taking notes there. Can't reveal anything just yet, but no, we're definitely tuned into that still, and so I'd say stay tuned.
I would imagine. How are you finding the overall business climate right now? You are a highly specialized company, certainly the expert within the genre that you've decided to attach yourselves. And I've had this conversation with Mark off and on over the years, just take one thing and do it better than anybody else. The question is, in an industry that is surprisingly competitive at times and a little bit predatory in how it will look at competition, copy it, duplicate it, and rebrand it elsewhere. How do you see your ability to maintain such professionalism and such dedication to a certain segment and survive?
Yeah. Well, I think, for one thing, you're right. There is a lot of competition out there, and it's really good competition. Everybody in the avionics industry does a great job. So we've got good competition, but I think part of the key to our success is that we focus strictly on the one thing, which is audio. We haven't tried to spread ourselves too thin, on other things, even though we get asked all the time, well, gosh, I wish you guys would do this or that. It's enticing, but we know what our core competency is. And so we're definitely committed to audio and audio only. So that's part of our success, but just overall, for us, the market's been very good the last several years. It's been very strong. The GA side, as well as our new special mission stuff, that's been well received so far, and business continues to grow for us too.
Excellent. How big a company is PS Engineering?
As far as employee count, or
employee count and overall reach and its position in the market?
Well, employee count, we're based in East Tennessee, and we've got, last count, 16 maybe employees. Okay. So we do all of our own design work and manufacturing in-house. We're very proud of that we've got that ability to control the whole process from concept to the products that we ship. So we take a lot of pride in that. And really, as far as our product reach, gosh, I mean, it's all over the place. So both domestic and international.
And we've been owners of a number of your products ourselves. And matter of fact, what was particularly fun was the advent of Bluetooth and the ability to, while you're waiting for clearances, waiting for this, getting your calls in and everything else, and
right,
cool stuff. Just really changed a lot of modalities in regards to how we were using our own airplanes. So it was very cool to see you folks break through in that particular area.
Yeah, thank you.
The avionics industry right now is pretty much dedicated to an area that doesn't affect you that much, but getting through ADS-B 2020 and the like. But it's obvious that following the train of ADS-B 2020, there's going to be kind of a shift out there in regards to, okay, how do we build a business model that allows us to take in more, so forth and so on. At the same time, the thing we've seen have been the ability for certain companies to reach out and build partnerships with others. And I know you've done some of that work in those areas. When you look at the future of the business, where do you see the potential for partnerships? Do you think that that's something that you'll be doing more of, less of, or is PS Engineering something that just really needs to stand on its own?
Well, you're right. I think the partnerships are important. Really, for us, the ADS-B mandate has been good because it gets airplanes in the shop, and while they're in, it's a perfect time to upgrade your panel. So that's led to some business for us, but I think that'll continue even after the ADS-B mandate, and you're not having to spend that money, on something not audio related. But as far as the partnerships go, really the shift in panels that would affect us is the shift to glass. So you're having all of this stuff integrated into one screen now. And so for that reason, that's kind of what's driving us more and more into some strategic partnerships. Because there will be a day where maybe you don't have that audio panel sitting on the stack, and what do you do then? So a lot of our products, both the 450 family and the PAC 45 series, lend themselves to that because they can be mounted remotely, and we do have partnerships in place to drive those from screens. So that's definitely something that we're aware of and working towards.
In my conversations with both Mark and Gary over the years, the one thing that's been interesting to me in regards to the audio panel market is how casually pilots treat the topic and the gear until they have a bad experience. And then they understand the criticality of communications and the ability to switch to what they need, or for that matter, not let the people in the back hear up front that they've got a problem with cylinder 3 and they're trying, so forth and so on. The need to educate people on this technology has never been greater, and I know you folks have done a valiant job in that regard, but how dumb are pilots about audio panels still? Is it improving? Because my basic, and frankly, I got to count myself as one of them from the beginning until I actually spent more time at Mark and with the gear and so forth and so on. It just, it's there, it works, who cares?
Right.
Until you have to care.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. Usually, I'm a pilot as well, and the last thing I think of is the audio panel, typically. I'm more worried about, can I make the GPS do what I want it to do?
Exactly.
So, the audio functions and all the whiz-bang features that you get in an audio panel are usually the very last thing that I think about, and probably most pilots do. Unless they just really know their aircraft and their avionics. But it's for that reason that we try to keep our panels, while they do a lot, we try to keep them as simple to use as we can. You've got a lot of times just a panel with buttons, and it's not good if you got to do all kinds of weird memory combinations and button presses to pull out these special features that you might need. So that's obviously an issue. So really, just trying to keep things as simple as you can so that you don't have to do as much training. Because if you've got to train up on your audio panel, you're probably not going to fool with it to begin with. You've got bigger things to worry about.
Peter, how can people get more information on PS Engineering?
Well, they can visit our website, ps-engineering.com, or see us at Sun and Fun or wherever. We're at all the trade shows, or just give us a call. So
any announcements coming up for Sun and Fun?
We'll wait till Sun and Fun.
Okay.
If you can wait a week, we'll wait till then.
Oh yeah, but we're in the news business. We don't want to wait for nothing. All righty, Peter Campbell, VP of Engineering for PS Engineering. We thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
All righty, folks, we're going to take a soft break. We'll be back in a few moments. We're at the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show live in Palm Springs, California at the Palm Springs Convention Center. Be back in just a few moments. See you soon. All righty, we're back. We are still in the first hour of our programming, third day, AEA 2019, the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California. Not the easiest venue to get to, but I'll tell you what, you wake up in the mornings, look out at the hills and these beautiful blue skies, and you realize this is God's country. It's gorgeous out here, and not a bad place to have a convention, at least once you finally get here. We're pleased to be able to welcome Thomas Terschlussen, Director of Sales and Marketing for Thomann, who had probably the best name for a new product this year for the new product introductions 2 days ago, Strato Timer. Seriously, I mean, you just know that this will save the world.
Really? Yeah. Appreciate your compliment. Yeah, we're very proud of the name as well. Yeah.
That's a good name. Tell us about Stratotimer, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about the folks who brought it to us.
Sure. So the Stratotimer is our new generation, what we call onboard time management system. In fact, it is a clock. It's an aircraft clock, but it can do a lot more than that. So we basically would like to present this product as an advanced multifunction chronograph. It obviously provides all the timer functions that you would expect from a clock. So UTC, local time. You can obviously also program your flight timers, your countdown and count up timers. But that can all be done in a very programmable fashion, because it is indeed a multifunction display that you can really set the way you like it. The color schemes can be really user specific. We can program different oral output alerts, and this is a very unique feature, and the way that the product is itself engineered really provides a lot of flexibility and installation flexibility.
Outstanding. The concept of timing devices in the cockpit have been with us since day one. I mean, you would almost have expected the Wright brothers to be measuring everything that they did time-wise, especially when it came to, what was it, the first flight was something like 13 seconds long or some such. I don't know that most of the aviation community really understands the criticality of being able to monitor where they are, what they're doing, when they need to do A, B, C, and D. So what kind of design criteria are you looking for when you establish an interest in a timing product?
Very good question. And in fact, as stupid as it may sound, you still need a clock to fly an aircraft. You know, you have a multitude of very advanced avionics, but the very basics still rely on really measuring your flight phases in a very appropriate way. So a lot of electronic flight displays already integrate timer function, but a lot of pilots still want to have a separate display that really provides a clear overview of their flight phases. So, and you're right, the criticality of that type of devices is important. To give you an example, the Stratotimer is available in two sizes. It's available in 2 ATI and a 3 ATI format. Both of them have kept the typical round dial on the 3 ATI, or we spread the little graduations around the 2 ATI as well, so that the pilot can really see the sweep second hand, instead of just having the numbers, getting forward or actually down if you use a countdown, and that really helps them to really see the flight phase itself advancing. And we're talking here about ergonomics and human factors, and the fact that you can program different colors is really important, because some cockpit layouts have a different appearance than, for instance,
especially in the digital age.
There you go. And the fighters, for instance, we know that there's an interest in the special mission, military, and trainer aircraft. And the fact that you can program, for instance, the backlight with red, green, or amber, depending on the way you want to look at it, really gives this flexibility. So we're really surprised by the interest that the product is already raising. We've had a good traffic already yesterday. Today is even better. So yeah, it's a very interesting time for us.
Talk a little bit about cost, availability, and installation issues.
Right. So the philosophy of this product is to be a form-fit function replacement of legacy clocks in the 3 and 2 ATI formats. So in terms of installation, we try to keep this very straightforward, so that the users don't have to really spend an enormous amount of money to retrofit this clock into the space which is available. So in terms of availability, the 3 ATI will be available in April.
Okay.
So we're ready to take orders on this one. The 2 ATI will be available in June of this year.
All right.
And we're already working on a number of STC options. We have for the 3 ATI an AML STC in progress for 737.
Okay.
We're looking at the A320 as a second step. And for the 2 ATI, we have a number of discussions going on already with customers. The regionals are one of our targets.
So the best I can say is, get back to us with your requirement, and we'll be looking forward to exploring to develop some more STC options depending on the opportunities.
Interesting. When you conceive of a product like this, what's the development cycle like? What is it that instigates? Okay, we need a new device in this segment, whatever the case may be. What kind of R&D, what kind of decision-making processes come about to be able to create something like Stratotimer?
So Thomann has been doing clocks for quite a while. In fact, we started off doing wristwatches in 1853. So let's say we have some experience.
So you're not exactly a short timer in this business.
No, exactly.
Sorry, pun intended.
Right. So we've been making clocks, as I said, for quite some years, and we've had for a number of years electromechanical clocks and instruments, but there were unfortunately they had an obsolescence problem for some of them, and this product was designed to replace those mechanical instruments which are no longer available, or which basically have an integration problem when you go out and install a full digital glass cockpit and you still have your analog clock. So it's a matter of having an homogeneous layout in your panel. So in terms of design criteria, this is certainly something we kept in mind and actually started off with as a baseline. And as I said, the ergonomics was really important for us. We know that the clock itself needs to be really readable, and in fact the fact that we use a full color TFT display really helps us to propose a full sunline readable display. So you can actually look at it from every angle, 80 degree, you're still able to read your time. And that was also a problem of older clocks or clocks which are available still today. The sunline readability and readability in general is a problem. And you cannot really afford not being able to read your time when you're flying. Especially you need your clock when you do the takeoff and landing operation. So it's important to have that on one side. Automatically you can see the clock. So it's that was also one of the major criteria here.
I'll bet. Tell us a little bit about Thomann itself.
Well, as I told you, 1853 was the starting point a few years ago. And as I said, started off doing watches, but the real I would say the real beginning for the company in aviation was in 1916 with the first contract of the Swiss Air Force to do an onboard clock back then already, which was obviously mechanical. And basically this culture of precision, of really craftsmanship brought the company into aviation, and the company developed itself doing mechanical instruments, altimeters, airspeed indicators, VSIs, different types of instruments. And along the years it started also to develop itself doing digital air data computers, which is still our core business right now. We have a very good reputation for this product because of its configurability. And along the years, as I said, the different options were extended and expanded, and we're now full focused on digital solutions because of obsolescence and because of our ability to replace some older instruments with digital replacements. So it's a pretty exciting time. We've invested a lot of energy in new programs and new products like the Stratotimer. And in fact, we want to go forward with this product by customizing it to be a future, I would say, fully customizable multifunction display. So the hardware you see right now on our booth is something we could use in the future for a 3ATI multifunction display, for instance. And we work with some OEMs already that have expressed interest to just use the product as it is and customize it for their needs. There's not a lot of 3ATI multifunction display options available today in the market, and especially not with this TFT technology we are using right now.
Interesting. So it basically leaves you every place to go.
We hope so. But some places would be enough for us. As a starting point, obviously, we're looking forward to expand the product and basically create out of this first product a new generation of product line, essentially.
do you have any inclination yet as to how you might expand the functionality chain on a device like this?
Sure. As it is now, important feature maybe that the public needs to know about is it already includes a video port. So by using the strategy timer, you could actually also use it as a video display.
Okay.
And a number of customers already indicated their interest in displaying the landing gear camera on the same unit. And we have a soft button that allows you to flip through the different menus and through the pages actually. And by doing this, you could have access to your landing gear camera or your tail rotor for helicopter cases. So this is already available. But moving forward, we're looking to host, for instance, software applications, third-party software applications, to perform different type of end-user applications. May it be engine indication, different types of applications. So it is an open architecture, both in hardware and software at this point.
If you have a moment, give me a little bit more background on your ADC line.
So we started this product line in the mid-2000s, and it's a very configurable product. We have it in a remote mount version and a panel mount version. The remote mount version is really appreciated for its configurability and ability to be integrated with full digital glass cockpit suites. We work with a number of avionics OEMs already that integrate this component in their suite. The panel mount. The panel mount air data computer is in fact, it looks like an altimeter, it behaves like an altimeter, but it's a full-scale ADC. So it provides airspeed computation as well as altimetry. What really makes the product different from the others is we have a number of configurations or aircraft types which we already cover in our database. But it is not a problem if we come across an opportunity and we haven't done the aircraft yet. We exchange with customers what we call the technical configuration checklist, and this document essentially includes all the requirements, all the specifications, all the performance requirements that the aircraft has to comply with, and we would adapt our product to match the aircraft specification, which, for instance, could be the different temperature probes that are already in the aircraft, the AEA valve, for instance. So it's really a document that is meant to customize the product to the aircraft itself, and with minimal effort. You know, we're not talking about a huge engineering effort here. It's because it's so open, but still very flexible to configure. We can do it in a very, very short time. You're looking at a couple of weeks of time to customize the different parameters. So it's really not something that should be seen as a real trouble for us. In fact, that's what makes us makes the product so appreciated on the market.
Outstanding. How can people find more information about Thomann?
Come and see us at our booth. We're still here, 226. And besides that, we recently appointed a new representative for North America, which is Floyd Rooney. We're proud of having this valuable team member working for the company now. So he's based in North America, and our goal was to obviously provide a more efficient support and closer proximity to our customers in North America. And on a worldwide basis, we're obviously based in Switzerland, but we have representatives around the world. Check on our website. It's www.thomann.aero, and we have a lot of information with respect to our products, but also all the contact details for our agents worldwide, and we're basically ready.
I'll tell you what, I work across a number of spectrum. My background's flight test, but I've worked a number of spectrums, commercial, military, business, and general aviation. And you've always had a respected line with some of the partners and companies I've worked with. So it was a pleasure to get you folks up here for Aero-News and Airborne this time around. But keep us up to date on Stratatimer. It sounds like we haven't heard the end of it.
No, we have not. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we look forward to it.
Thank you,
Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job on filling us in. Alrighty, folks, we're going to take a. Oh goodness, I get a hard break. I get all of an extra minute here between guests. We'll be back in a few moments with the folks from CIES, Trig, MCI and True Blue Power coming up, UAvionics, Artex, and of course our cleanup guy for the entire program will be Rick Perry, Vice President of Government and Industry Affairs for AEA, and Mr. Government, Mr. Washington, Mr. Politics for AEA. Tremendous guest. We'll be back with you in just a few moments. This is the AEA's 62nd Annual Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California. We'll be back in just a few.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
The True Blue Power TA202 series high-power USB charging port requires no bulky external power converters for 10 to 32 VDC installation. The in-seat, cabin, and cockpit power source delivers all the power you need in a small, economical, easy-to-install package. Available from your local avionics dealer.
It's called AirText Plus. The mobile office is now a true, cost-effective win-win reality because being available and part of the communication chain keeps you in control. Visit us at www.airtext.aero for more information and get started staying in touch today.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Based on the popular Sling 2 LSA, the Sling 4 was designed to be the most practical and desirable lightweight four-place experimental aircraft on the market. Find out more about this 115 horsepower turbocharged airplane at airplanefactory.com.
The dream is real, a truly affordable personal jet aircraft. The Subsonics Personal Jet Kit is priced at only $42,000. Kit plus engine is still under $100K. Add instruments, upholstery, and paint and you're flying. It's time to put your money where your bucket list is. Learn more at sonicsaircraft.com.
are back. We are almost the halfway point of our coverage for today. This is our third day of live coverage from the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show from Palm Springs, California, in the Palm Springs Convention Center. It's been an interesting week. We, of course, have seen the transition as Paula Dirks handed over the reins to Mike Adamson. We've seen Gary Joyce take over as chairman of the board. We saw 28 new products in the NPIs this year, and there's a lot more interesting things going here on the floor. So let's lead into a subject that is not oft discussed, but certainly needs to be, until it's too late sometimes. Scott Philbin, president of and sales for SAIS. Tell me what you got here.
So what we set out to do, Cirrus had approached us in 2010 or so and said, you know, one of our large warranty issues has been fuel indication in the aircraft. And, you know, could we do something? Could we come up with a better way to measure fuel? And we set about it in a relatively workmanlike manner. We built a large plexiglass tank and put it on a boat because a plexiglass aircraft is a little difficult to monitor. Mm-hmm. And we evaluated a group of different technologies in order to see what we could come up with that would meet those requirements. Pretty quickly, we started writing up what would an ideal fuel sender actually do in aviation. One, should tell you, unlike what people are used to, should tell you how much fuel you have in the aircraft. And it should do so consistently and reliably. It should be relatively simple. It should be low cost, so it would meet those requirements that the OEMs were looking for. And we sort of very quickly narrowed in on retaining the float, which we realized would be somewhat of a marketing difficulty. New technology should look new. But we paired it with a modern position sensor, something that's found in modern automobiles for steer-by-wire, brake-by-wire, you know, safety of operation. And this sensor actually lets us know where the float is without touching the float. It has no contact, no physical contact. Mm-hmm. And that allowed us also to meet another requirement that the FAA put on from the TWA 800, where they wanted no electrical energy in the fuel tank itself.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. So while that regulation was written for Part 25 aircraft, it was being universally applied to new aircraft manufacturers, Cirrus, Piper, Cessna, and you saw various permutations of how they tried to address it, which basically made it an opening for us, because it took the resistive senders that were nearly marginal in GA and made them absolutely untenable. Mm-hmm. So it gave us an opening to put that in. Knowing what we did at Cirrus and knowing the success that we had, I mean, basically took one of their largest warranty problems and killed it. We saw an opportunity.
Yeah, they needed all the help they could get with that at that point.
Yes.
I remember those days real well.
We saw that there was an opportunity for a retrofit system because we had basically made something that was very similar looking. It would be very easy sell to the FAA as a retrofit. And then so we went about, again, in a very progressive manner and started certifying most of the GA aircraft available. We've had, because of our association OEM with Garmin, we've gotten Garmin interface, and so, you know, for instance, on the G3X, we're called out by Garmin as an approved sender to be interfaced with their new system. So the aftermarket has worked out very well for us. It's something that I thought that, you know, people would still live with crappy fuel indication, but I'm very surprised every day by the people who call us up, and then also by the advocates of our system. Our early adopters say that they wouldn't do anything else. Mm-hmm. Now that they have accurate fuel level, geez, why did it take so long for this to happen?
I'm glad you're having success on this, because it's obviously a safety-related issue, and for some reason or another, I have found safety to be one of the hardest things to sell in aviation.
It is a very difficult thing. We do things in aviation sometimes because they're religious. Mm-hmm. You know, they sticking your fuel tank, yep, or doing these things, and well, that doesn't tell you what fuel you have in the air. Nope. but this is what you've been trained to do, and this is what you do in order to overcome a system that has been substandard. And it's interesting that all of a sudden you have this and it becomes Jesus revelation. But again, it's hard to sell safety. One of the key things about this that was interesting to me is that when I first got into it, my friends who've been in aviation, I've been in aviation my entire career, in fact, my entire life, but you'll get sued.
Yeah.
So we have 29,000 senders in the field at this point. We haven't had a single fuel-starved or fuel-exhausted aircraft out of that grouping. So the idea, I know.
That's an impressive stat. That's a really impressive stat.
So when you look at pilots make better decisions with better information, is a better analogy about fuel indication than I just trust my watch.
And for so long, fuel issues have always been a combination of limited information compounded by guesswork.
Yes. and you would get, fuel totalizers became quite popular, probably late 70s, early 80s. And pilots believe they're a panacea for solving fuel-related issues. I trust my fuel totalizer. I always put in exactly what it says.
Yeah.
Right? This has all happened. But I made a presentation to AIs in Seattle a couple weeks ago, and I said, the fuel statistic has stayed relatively stable. That same 2 or 3 people running out of fuel per week has been that way from the 60s through the 70s and 80s. And if fuel totalizers were a safety system, you would have seen a drop in that. And I gave the example of TCAS. Near-miss events were just accelerating in the 80s. TCAS is introduced. They fall down to almost a 0 level, relatively speaking, and then slightly climb with the increasing amount of traffic, but at a wholly different rate. If you introduce a safety system, you should see that sort of feedback, that geez, I've done something and this has given me a good result, instead of sort of a tribal belief that it works, even though the data says it doesn't.
Fascinating. What led you to follow this particular path in aviation?
Oh, geez. I've been relatively successful in designing systems in aviation throughout my career, whether it was at Gulfstream, whether when I was working at Precise Flight and doing systems for Cirrus like the oxygen or their environmental control or one of those. And so I found sort of this little niche, in addressing difficult problems and solving them. I didn't intend to get into aviation fuel level because I believe, like everybody else growing up, that this was sort of, you just kind of push this away. It was just Cirrus's introduction to it. And then anytime you start a business, and this was basically a startup, you all of a sudden become an expert. And then as you become an expert and you start asking, why have we accepted this? Well, why did we get this? And you really start delving into all the reasons, even the psychology. I brought the book along, of why we might make decisions that aren't conducive to good piloting related to fuel.
Outstanding. So where do you take your work from here?
Accurate fuel level, leads to automation of other processes in the aircraft. We're working with RDD, who's re-winging, retailing the Lancer 4, and we actually have a system on that aircraft that automates fuel selection in a single-engine aircraft. So now that you have accurate fuel level and you can have the cross-check with a fuel totalizer, now you have a redundant system that allows you to automate systems in the aircraft that we've all relied on, timers and rote knowledge, to actually make flying, again, just like modern avionics, easier, more acceptable for people being introduced into into aviation.
I'll tell you what, it's something to me. My background's flight test, so I see the best and worst of this industry in a number of different areas. And I worked a number of programs and with a number of manufacturers, and it's obvious very quickly that what is attractive and what sizzles sells, and yet it's the little things that at the very best means a pilot walks home, and the very worst something tragic occurs, that just don't necessarily get the attention. I talked to you a little bit, I guess it was last year in Vegas, and then been reading up a little bit more on what you're doing here, but it's interesting to see somebody take on what is quote-unquote a mundane subject and push it through.
Yeah, the interesting piece, it's also a nice place to be because it's a niche. You know, it's not something, Garmin doesn't find it sexy, which is good for me.
Yeah, you don't expect them to duplicate that tomorrow.
Right.
You're one of the few then. Oh, my goodness. Well, fascinating stuff. How can people get more information about your product line, how it applies to them? What do they need to know?
You know, our website has quite a bit of information on it. Some of it's in-depth that assists OEMs, but really, you know, most of the avionics install facilities around the U.S. now have familiarity with our system. And if they reach out to, you know, their local avionics shop, they'll get a good, you know, we've gotten a good rapport in the industry. We're very focused on customer service and assisting these shops in addressing issues and problems, and that's reflected in a lot of the repeat business. So just reaching out to their local avionics shop and asking them about us and asking them you know, what they can do to improve fuel indication really helps out to get that personal a bit. And if they want to know more information, you know, certainly our website has lots of information about fuel quantity in our system and why our system has solved that particular issue in GA aircraft.
Okay, and you've got a pretty wide range of, and throw on your STCs on this.
Yeah, we have everything from Piper Cubs now up to Cessna Twins.
Okay.
We
not
do
the
it.
Piper Cub. I mean, come on, everybody loved the little fuel bobber. I mean, seriously, that's like.
That's
just like defeating America, man. Come on now.
That brings up memories because we had a Piper Cub, or a friend of mine had a Piper Cub, and I grew up around Oshkosh, and we would fly and we would run out of fuel because, you know, we didn't really know because the prop wash would hold the stick against the thing. But, you know, in a Piper Cub, we just landed in a friend's field and then we walked and got more gas and went flying again.
Innocent days.
Very innocent days.
Although I think one of the Piper Cub stories, we had a fellow out in Winter Haven, Florida, who was the best rag cover guy in the world. He was amazing until he passed. He was just Cal Hanks, just an extraordinary fellow. But he had a brand new, I mean, honest to God, wet behind the ears FAA guy come by and want to inspect his shop, and he sees this Cub, and he sees the fuel gauge, and he just blew us all away with, what's that?
Yeah.
Honestly, I had no clue. So I don't know. But at the same time, if you can do it better, go for it.
You know what's interesting to us now? I mean, we have some fairly complex interfaces, like the Cirrus Jet. We have the Airbus AS350 helicopter retrofit. We have the Quest Kodiak. We're working a few other programs. But the same unit that we're supplying to that, we're supplying for the Piper Cub. It's not different. So
ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But it's also kind of neat that on the low end, you get a product that's really functionally capable of doing larger aircraft.
Scott, we really appreciate your time here with Aero-News and the Airborne team. Somewhere down the line, I've got to spend a little bit of time with you in the field and see what you're doing. And we'll look forward to trying to arrange something like that here in the not-too-distant future. Will we see you at Lakeland next week?
No, I'll have some representation down in Lakeland, but I'm going to. This is my extent for travel in April.
Okay, so Oshkosh, I would imagine?
Oshkosh, we'll
see you there then. Scott, thank you very much for your time.
Alrighty,
folks. Andy Davis is on deck from Treg Avionics. We'll be back with you here in just a few minutes. This is our soft break. So just a few moments for Aero-News. We'll see you in 3 minutes. Alrighty, folks. Once again, nearing midway through the third day of our live coverage of AEA 2019, live from the Palm Springs Convention Center in Palm Springs, California. We're pleased to welcome Andy Davis from Trig Avionics. Andy, we're going to start out the way we always do with you guys because there's always a good answer. What's new?
What's new? Well, this time we are showing our TX56A Navcom. It's a big announcement for us. It's a part of our stack solution. So it's a full-featured COM and a nav, all in a 1.3-inch high box. It's got lots of nice features, monitor second channels, find intersections, and a great built-in database of COM channels and nav channels.
Outstanding. What's availability?
It's going to be available from May.
Okay. Coming up quick.
Yeah.
Price point?
The introductory price is $35.95 on that. So it's very attractive. And we have a companion product that goes with it as well, the TI-106, which is a CDI, a course deviation indicator, designed specifically for this nav device. Although the nav will actually drive legacy indicators as well. It'll drive some of the glass panels and quite a lot of things that are in people's cockpits. So it fits in a number of different roles there.
Okay. Now, you guys have been developing the stack for a while now. How is this going to fill in with everything that you've done heretofore, and what can we look to in the future?
It fills out our basic stack offering. We now have the audio panel. A couple of different audio panels are available. We have the Navcom, and we have its sister product, which is just a straight COM radio. And of course, we have the TT31 transponder, which completes that stack. It plays well with other people's stuff as well, so you can have a mixed stack, but we have all of the basic components.
Oh, we're pleased to see you do that, because too many times we talk to folks in the industry who get very excited about a new box and then find out that it doesn't work with the rest of the gear in their panel, and they're crestfallen. What can they do?
Yeah, we partner with a number of people to make sure that it does interoperate and works well together with other things. But it can work on a standalone basis as well. The TX56 does actually have a built-in intercom with a stereo intercom, stereo music. So even for a simple two-place trainer, it might be all that you need. But for the larger panel, as I say, interoperability with a whole range of other devices.
Outstanding. What else you got to show us here?
Well, at the other extreme at the show this week, we've also introduced what is our smallest ever new product introduction, which is this little guy.
Okay.
It's our new TA50 GPS antenna. A lot of the people that we're working with, especially in the light sport and the experimental arena, ultralights, people who want to ADS-B equip, but they just don't have the space. Mm-hmm. We have solutions for them in a normal Part 23 airplane, but one thing you end up with is an antenna that's about this big. And if you have a very small airframe or very limited space, where are you going to go with your antenna? And so we came out with this, which is a little GPS patch antenna. It's tiny. It's less than an inch square.
Smallest I've seen so far.
It is the smallest antenna out there. It comes complete with its cable kit and a connector, which is actually designed to plug straight into our TN72 GPS position source. Okay. The two together, when combined with a Trig transponder, provides an ADS-B out capable solution. Can actually be used in two ways. It can be used in the sailplane community to provide what's called the traffic awareness beacon system. Mm-hmm. So for those guys, that's a great solution. But also in the light sport experimental community, the combination is fully compatible with the requirements of 91227, and therefore it gives those guys a very inexpensive path to a fully compliant ADS-B out solution. Combine it with any of the Trig transponders, and you're good to go.
Well, one thing your entire product line, by and large, has been known for is not wasting space.
Yep, compact is the way we go. This is, of course, the control head for the transponder. Occupies minimal panel space. It's light, few ounces, and fully featured though, and everything can be done right there on that control head.
About as small as it gets.
Yep.
The overall attitude of the industry right now, as we are working our way down to the 2020 deadline,
yep,
and the ADS-B gravy train as it's been for the time being, where do you see yourselves positioning once all the hubbub is over? Where does Trig fit into all this post-2020?
Well, I should say a couple of things about that. First of all, we don't expect there to be a cliff stop at the end of this year. As I think everybody knows, there's a lot of people still to equip.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes just out of choice. If you're an infrequent flyer or you infrequently go into the mandate airspace, and remember, a lot of the US, you don't need to be ADS-B equipped if you stay in your patch. They don't need to equip until maybe they're going to go on a longer trip and so on. So there's going to be a tail that stretches well through 2020 as people finish the rollout. But partly because we want to look beyond that, that's why Trig has gone into things like the Navcom and the rest of the stack solution. We do view ourselves as being a general avionics supplier, not just a small number of niche products. And we want to provide solutions for a whole range of different requirements within lighter end of GA.
The competition among the GA avionics community and the system that has developed over the years has been kind of brutal here and there. It's been interesting watching people be innovative, then be copied, and then get shoved aside. How do you stay fresh and innovative when there's kind of a predatory environment out there in regards to how the industry competes with each other?
Yeah, it's not as predatory as it might look. In a lot of cases, vendors do need to work with others and make sure that they have that interoperability that I was talking about earlier. And so we keep an eye on what each other is doing. And in some cases, of course, what you're trying to do is complement what other people are doing. There's not that much room for a lot of head-to-head in the industry. Occasionally, maybe even by mistake, some people's roadmaps clash and you end up coming to a show like this and 3 or 4 people all seem to have launched the same thing and you kind of think, oops, that's not going to work. So by keeping an eye on the ground and seeing where things are going, you can choose your markets, choose your opportunities and try to complement what's already out there. And so that's a way of steering around some of that. But yeah, there is also direct competition. Most of our products do have one or more direct competitors that we are competing against, and so you have to differentiate on some features, whether it's the size, the way it's packaged, some of the technical features, the kind of installations that you can do, and again what you can interoperate with and what you can't, and that tends to drive people into different choices. But there's lots of good products out there, and you can actually mix and match quite a few of them and get good solutions.
On the other side, while there's certainly a pretty competitive aspect, well, the thing that gives us hope for the industry is there are also a lot of interesting partnerships that come up where some of the companies decide to cooperate and work together rather than beat each other over the head with mine's better than yours or trying to build in development cycles in order to be uber competitive under the circumstances. Is Trig more interested in standing alone, or are you looking at the potential for cooperative programs?
We already do cooperative programs with a number of other people, some of which are what you might call overt and people know about them, and sometimes it's just stuff in the background. We actually participate in a number of the standards bodies, particularly the RTCA committees that design a lot of the standards behind this. And although when it comes to products going to market, it's head-to-head competition, and in a lot of cases, some of the background technologies, some of the design decisions as to how products can be structured, the technical features that go behind them are actually set in those standards committees. And Trig has representation in a number of those areas where we work directly with competitors, colleagues in the industry to set industry standards, consensus standards. So that there is a whole lot in the background of where we're driving towards what we all agree is possible, reasonable, and what you can do. And then you go back and make your product that implements that and hope that you differentiate it from what the other guys doing. So there's already quite a lot of that technical collaboration and discussion because ultimately we all tend to be pro-aviation, pro the market, and we want to see it succeed. So we do in fact work together quite a lot with other people.
Excellent. The regulatory environment in the States has been one thing. As I understand, the regulatory environment on the other side of the pond has been a bit convoluted in light of the political situation out there. How are you surviving all that?
Oh, yes. well, if you're mentioning the B word, Brexit, that has been something
I wasn't
that's
going to
been
go beyond the B word.
Yeah,
but, since you let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, that's been slightly stressful. The ambition, of course, is that once our politicians have done fighting with each other, everything will carry on pretty much as before. The UK ought to remain a full member of EASA, and therefore the whole structure there as to how standards are set and how we're doing stuff should remain the same. There is, of course, it should. That's our aspiration. There is possibilities there that it isn't going to work out that way. Fortunately, we actually have another office in continental Europe, in the Netherlands, and we are able to move our approvals and some of our regulatory stuff from one place to another. So in fact, we think that we're pretty safe almost no matter what insanity our politicians come up with.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it weren't for the politics of this business, it would be a whole different ball game, wouldn't it?
It would be easier.
Indeed. What can we expect for Oshkosh this year out of Trig? You always have some really neat stuff coming up.
That would be telling. But yes, we do expect to have some,
me and
a few thousand other people.
Details.
So we expect to have some great and exciting new products, and we expect to have lots of things to talk about to all of the people who come to our booth in Oshkosh.
Okay. There's an interesting dichotomy between folks who have pretty broad avionics lines within the GA community, such as yourselves, such as a BK or a Garmin, or to a certain extent an Avidyne and some of the others out there. How do you see yourself positioning yourself for the future? Where does Trig wind up in all of this as we go forward?
We still aspire to be one of the leading players of a general broad-based product line, and we expect that to continue going forwards. Some of that will be done through organic growth and new product lines. Some of it might be done with getting in product or technologies from partners or other people. But yeah, we expect to be up there as I guess a player in the industry for some time to come.
Well, it's got such a good foundation. One, your gear has always been so cleanly built. The sizes have always been, you've really economized on space, and let's face it, there's no such thing as a box that's not big enough.
Yep.
I don't care who you're trying to impress. And then on top of it, you've filled in various niches along the way, and you've got yourself a pretty good stack going.
Yep.
And as I said, it's also just an attractive lineup. I mean, let's face it, we're still pilots. We want the things to look good because we have egos to stroke.
Surely not.
Yes. And we want the cockpits to look as good as the airplanes, and you're certainly contributing to that level. So it's fun to watch as you continue to go forward, as you grow your product line, and more important, watching you persevere while a couple fall away or come back or they're gone again or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's tough to do, especially considering the fact that you're not a U.S. company. And that's got to be an interesting competitive aspect right then and there.
It has its competitive advantages and its disadvantages. We're pretty successful outside the U.S., and that, of course, it gives us a strong base to work from. Here in the U.S., we do have a good representation. We have 400 dealers. We have in-country service and support, and so that's not a significant disadvantage to us working here. So yeah, we're a worldwide player and still growing.
Not bad, Guy. Not bad at all.
Thank you.
And on top of that, right here at AEA, they bring the good scotch. We love these guys. All righty, we are coming up on a hard break. We've got Mid-Continent's Todd Winter and Eric Ritzman coming up to talk about True Blue Power, followed by Hayden Clark with UAvionics, Jeff Garassi from Artex, and Rick Perry, AEA's VP of Government Affairs and basically their political expert, to end up the day. We'll be back in 6-7 minutes. As I said, it's a hard break. We look forward to seeing you in a minute. This is the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show, live from the Palm Springs Convention Center in Palm Springs, California. Andy, thank you for your time, Guy.
Thank you.
All right.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
It's called AirText Plus. The mobile office is now a true, cost-effective win-win reality. Because being available and part of the communication chain keeps you in control. Visit us at www.airtext.aero for more information and get started staying in touch today.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Based on the popular Sling 2 LSA, the Sling 4 was designed to be the most practical and desirable lightweight four-place experimental aircraft on the market. Find out more about this 115 horsepower turbocharged airplane at airplanefactory.com.
Build and fly with the most exciting line of kit aircraft on the market, the Sonex Aircraft B models. The B models offer more room and comfort, more fuel, more panel space, more engine choices, and the same great Sonex Aircraft flight characteristics. Learn more at sonexaircraft.com.
The 2019 AEA Member of the Year is Todd Winter, the President and CEO of Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics in Wichita, Kansas. An FAA-certified private pilot and a current member of numerous aviation organizations, Todd's passion for aviation began at a young age by spending many hours watching airplanes and taking rides with his father at the airport. Founded in 1964, Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics began as a small repair station for Wichita's growing aircraft industry. Acquired by John Winter in 1980, the company expanded its services to include manufacturing and quickly earned a reputation for highly responsive, one-on-one customer service that continues to this day. Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics is an FAA and EASA authorized repair station that serves several leading manufacturers. An AEA member since 1981, the company has steadily increased its capacity in the repair and overhaul of avionics products, including weather radars, MODES transponders, emergency locator transmitters, and other navigational and communication systems. Today, Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics proudly serves 72 countries through 2 locations. A past member of the AEA Board of Directors, Todd regularly attends the AEA International Convention and Trade Show, along with various other industry events throughout the year. Todd also is the CEO of True Blue Power, the first company in the world to develop and TSO a safe lithium-ion main ship battery. His company continues to grow its brand with a strategic and long-term advertising presence in the association's monthly magazine, Avionics News. Ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate Todd Winter, the 2019 AEA Member of the Year.
Alrighty folks, we are back. It's the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show, live from the Palm Springs Convention Center in Palm Springs, California. We are past the halfway point, looking forward to finishing up what has been a great week of coverage of AEA. Let's face it, within the aviation spectrum, there's no part of the industry that's as innovative, if not disruptive, as has the avionics community. And speaking of disruption, we've got Mr. Disruption right here.
Disruption?
Oh gosh, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the one thing I learned from all my time with X-Prize and all the extraordinary technologies we saw and putting private spaceships into space and the whole 9 yards was the word disruption was not a dirty word. It was something to be prized, it was something to be lauded, and it was something to aspire to.
True.
So
that's a good point.
You're a disruptive kind of guy.
Well, you know, I think the way we look at it, you're right. So sometimes to improve things, right? Yeah, to improve things and help people, sometimes you have to be disruptive, right? Mm-hmm. Break the status quo. It can be a little risky at times, so I guess that's
no risk, no reward.
That ties in there as well. But yeah, you know, we like yourself, we love aviation. So things that we can do, we've been involved for so long, things that we can do to help aviators. As you mentioned too, this show is incredible, the AEA. And I wish that more people, and maybe we'll hear this, but if more people knew how much we've done in aviation and how much safety has been improved, I think they would be very impressed and comforted by that too. So.
Well, a common theme through our discussions in the last few days has been, and has actually through a number of conventions, is the fact that the avionics industry has out-innovated power plant technology, out-innovated airframe technology. It has been one of the driving forces in keeping aviation as close to the leading edge as it possibly can, pun intended.
Yeah.
So, and let's face it, let's talk about what's new. Well, I guess we'll start with True Blue Power because, well, there it is, just sitting there in front of God and everybody, just ready to power whatever you need.
Got our blue colors going, and established a great brand. Lots of people know Mid-Continent Instrument Company. Mm-hmm. We've been around for over 50 years, helping people fly safely. And True Blue Power is our division, and we focus on power products. But you raise a good point. So it's avionics and electronics. So all of a sudden we're in the battery business. So what's that all about? Well, like many technologies today, batteries are now enabled by electronics. So whereas in the past, and it's still a big part of it, chemistry, mechanical configuration, construction is super important, electronics play a huge role in making things work better, last longer, be more safe. And that's why Mid-Continent and True Blue Power have been successful. So, gosh, we've been at the battery forefront as part of the avionics world now for 15 or plus years, and then we've taken that and scaled it into different areas. One of our new products we're very proud of, emergency lighting, battery packs. Of course, the airliners and the maintainers love it because the reduction in maintenance is probably 80 to 90%.
That's
over
serious.
NICADs, exactly. And so they really just don't have to spend all that wasted time. And of course, emergency lighting is important. And it's the latest technology. It's the first product ever TSO'd under the new FAA requirement, which is very stringent for safety. Of course, we focus on performance and quality, and so a great achievement. And emergency lighting can be very important. And scaled up everything that we've learned over these past 10 years, working with Bell, working with Robinson, Textron, pretty much any OEM you can think of, and actual field experience, because we do now have lots of great new batteries. We're proud of it. It's lithium-ion technology, and we have a safe chemistry that we use. And now that it's out there in the real world, we're able to work with the OEMs, learn lessons, and improve it. So we said, okay, let's do the next generation, and that's our 5th generation batteries.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the electronics.
No kidding.
We have a great chemistry. It's very reliable. It's less reactive, so it's safe. But the holy grail is, how do we really know what the state of charge? Like, you know, when you look at your phone, yeah, maybe you've got 80%, but how do you really know? Well, in an aviation, we like a little bit more definitive information. So state of charge and state of health has always been kind of the holy grail. So we started clean sheet design, and we redesigned the electronics, the battery management system in the battery, to again preserve the integrity and the length and the service life of the battery. In some cases, we will probably eliminate maintenance altogether. So much more than 90% reduction in battery maintenance costs, because now the battery really does know its state of health and its state of charge. So the pilot or somebody who checks a maintenance log will actually be able to see the condition of the battery and predict or know when it needs to be changed. So they don't have to haul it off and put it in a battery shop and spend a lot of money doing maintenance. So we're looking after our certification, which will be a little bit later this year, our final certification, to be able to do on-condition maintenance, and all that comes from the electronics and everything that we have learned as really the only company that can supply a FAA certified lithium-ion main chip battery in the market, and we've got that available for OEMs so they can start putting it on that next new aircraft, that next new helicopter.
And you guys have penetrated the market in a number of serious platforms fairly quickly. As a matter of fact, frankly, faster than anybody really expected. Because let's face it, while it's not the same technology, the word lithium did not start in the best position coming into aviation.
Yeah, and of course, even though everybody's using the technology in other industries, and actually quite a bit in aviation, right? Because the people say, well, we want to have one lithium battery in this application. Oh, by the way, there's 350 of them in the cabin on the airliner, right? And yes, there's some differences, but the reality is, of course, this one is FAA certified, so you know it's safe, and it's got to be reliable, right, or customers can't use it. So, yeah, we actually have fleet operators, the U.S. government, our good friends at Bell, on the 505 Jet Ranger, which is, you know, is an awesome helicopter. Our friends at Robinson.
Next generation batteries for next generation helicopters.
That's true. And of course, you know, the question is, well, why really do they love them? Well, one of the big factors is they're 50% less weight. And when you can take anywhere from 40 to 120 pounds off that aircraft, that's a big thing. It reduces carbon emissions, for one, and you got less maintenance, and they last longer. That's the modern technology. And aviation, as we know, as you of all people know, right? We need these great technologies, these things that come in and make flying even more safer, even more efficient. And this is one of those top 5 technologies for the future, definitely in aviation.
And disruptive.
Somewhat disruptive. I kind of also consider it an enabler for the more electric aircraft.
Yep.
And that's another big step that all the OEMs are taking. And I'm not talking the hybrid electric, flying car. Although, as you know, there's a lot of attention being paid to that, and a lot of work and money being spent on that. And yes, it has to have this kind of technology, not this specific, but this is part of it as well. So, and it's definitely a step in that direction. Yeah.
Tell me about the MD-93.
The MD-93. Well, that's something, that's kind of one that's right in your face, right? It's a clock. It's a clock, but more than a clock, our customers love it because it's also a USB charging point.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, everybody's flying with their iPad or their tablet. They need some place to charge it. And some of the low-cost chargers really don't work that well. So we custom design, again, our electronics, our circuitry. We put it in a very nice functional clock. Lots of people are flying with clocks that may not be working that well or that are hard to use. So we give them the typical features you need in a clock. It's FAA certified, TSO'd. And you know, the biggest part is the pilots who use the clock, they love it, right? They love it and it gives them utility. And what we did, this version is actually, we kicked up the power to 3 amps.
Oh, okay.
So we call this one the MD-93H. So there are a bunch of these already in the field, fleets, every type of aircraft you can think of. And now we have an even better version that's high power, MD-93H.
Price point?
They run around $500-600, depending on who's buying them and where you're putting them in. So they're available on the open market. These two products, as well as all the other hundreds of products from Mid-Continent and TrueBlue, are certified and available today. The 5th generation batteries, as I mentioned, we're finishing our certification, and we've done it many times before with batteries, and those will be a little bit later in the year.
How is the FAA treating you these days?
You know, pretty well. We've always had a great relationship, what I tend to call an open door policy.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to have very healthy discussions. You know, people that are doing things well, paying attention to detail, cognizant of safety, with good reputations, tend to have good relationships with the FAA. So we're actually able to get things certified. We have great discussions. They've learned a lot about newer technologies, software certification, because all these products have software.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one actually not as much, but software certification, that's a big step.
I can imagine.
So dealing with software certification, dealing with battery technologies, as well as, you know, the SAM, you know, flight instrument technologies, things like that. So we get along well with the FAA, actually.
Outstanding.
And I do appreciate the transitions that they're going through
mm-hmm.
to move themselves forward and for more the risk-based management. So we're helping them navigate that, and we're interested and think that's a move for the better, for the positive. I think it'll be good for everyone.
So what's on the horizon then for Mid-Continent and TrueBlue? Anything we need to be looking forward to over the next few months?
Well, the 5th generation batteries will have really have legs.
Mm-hmm.
So you will see our batteries coming out on more new aircraft. We continue to focus on special applications like this, where people have a problem out there and we can help provide a solution. And we continue to listen to our friends in the AEA and say, you know, have you ever thought about doing this? Again, providing solutions like that, helping people keep older aircraft flying.
Mm-hmm.
Our overhaul exchange program is still one of the largest in the country, so people know about our new products. So we're trying to help people fly efficiently, keep those airplanes flying, whether it's an older model or a brand new aircraft. So, you know, you'll see us hitting all those spots in the future, I think.
Sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot of work, but we do love aviation, so.
And we love watching you disrupt
it. Okay.
There we go.
We'll keep it up.
We really appreciate your time joining us here at the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show. You and I have been talking like this over the course of the last decade plus. It's been fun to watch both Mid-Continent grow, and then the advent of TrueBlue Power, and what has been a significant revolution in how aircraft systems are powered.
It's exciting.
And frankly, I've enjoyed the education because I, like everybody else, as lithium came on the scene, heard the highs and the lows, mostly the lows, and over a period of time watching people who actually knew what they were talking about, knew what they were doing, educate the rest of us, and put out products that not only performed but outperformed. Pretty cool stuff.
Yes, and we'll continue that. Our website has some good information so people can learn more. People tend to be very interested in that, like you said. So.
And they can find more information on Mid-Continent True Blue Power where?
Yeah, Mid-Continent Instruments, mcico.com, and truebluepowerusa.com on the web.
Had
Social
to get that
media.
USA in there, didn't you? All right.
Well, we had to because somebody else beat us to the name. It's one of those web things, you know.
There you go.
But we're as you know, we're global. We're global, so
that's for sure.
We like every country.
Good deal. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All righty, we are 2/3 of the way through the program tonight, and we have Hayden Clark from UAvionics showing up here shortly. Artex ACR will be represented, and then of course Rick Perry to give us the regulatory update and close out the show, and we'll have a chance to do a quick wrap up from then on out. In the meantime, we'll take a soft break. We'll be back with you in just a few minutes. This is the Aero-News Network at AEA 2019. All right, you didn't learn a darn thing. You're back, and so are we. I'm pleased to welcome Hayden Clark, Director of Business Development for GA for U Avionics. Make a long story short, you guys have your fingers in an awful lot of pies right now.
We do.
Tell me what's new at U Avionics.
Well, obviously,
and try to keep it down to about 2 hours.
As quick as I can. So obviously we have the Sky Beacon. We got our full AML STC in last November, and since then it's been going crazy. Sales are certainly on the up.
I've been really amazed at the discussion level on some of the pilot message boards about these devices, and no, it doesn't. No, it can't. And then the folks out there who have installed going, yes, it
does.
did.
Yes, it does. It
yes,
does.
it did.
It does. I mean, it's really, it is proven in the field. This
is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's disruptive. I love as everybody knows, I spent a lot of time working with the X Prize group and was on various projects with them and so forth, and hang around with Peter Diamandis and the gang, and you learn the word disruptive is not a dirty word. Right. It was the word that drove progress.
It's also constructive. It's in terms of a product for the pilots and for the people out there. It's a wonderful system. Very, very easy. It's literally switching out a light and replacing it with a fully compliant ADS-B out device.
There you go.
It's great. So obviously, I guess that's old news. The new news is the tail beacon. Obviously, you have that here. It's a working demonstration. We currently have that for the experimental market. It is going through the throes of getting its TSO, and we expect that in about 4 to 6 weeks' time. We're also working
before Oshkosh, all right?
We're definitely before Oshkosh.
The line starts.
Oh my goodness! Field. And we are seeing massive demand. The order books are open. You can pre-order. Right now.
You ever seen the little deli counties would take a number? That's what you're going to need for Oshkosh.
And it's going to be that way. I mean, we're at Sun and Fun next week as well. We're going to do some live installs. We've got some live demonstrations going on for the Sky Beacon. It's exceedingly popular. It's the device for the people, you know.
Yeah, it's simple, it's easy, it's attractive, and it works. How do you beat that?
I don't know. The next thing I think is. We're certainly here. We're getting a lot of questions about 1090. Implementing a device that we can use in Canada, Europe, Australasia, and so that's certainly, I think, in the backgrounds we're working on that. But yeah, our efforts are really at the moment are trying to manufacture enough of these to time. It's the demand is huge.
Let's update folks who may not be aware. Tell us a little bit about the device's installation times, which of course is the beauty of the whole thing, pricing and availability.
Sure, so the Sky Beacon, it's designed to replace a Grimes 3-bolt teardrop light. You literally remove the existing light fixture. You have 3 wires, you have a power, a ground and a strobe. The light itself is a red fixed position light with a strobe. It has a built-in WAS GPS and also a 978 transmitter, and so it's all integral. The power transcoder actually sniffs out the transponder messages and altitude encoder messages. It takes that on board and then rebroadcasts that with the extra ADS-B out information. It's a simple device. It's installed quite simply, 3 wires, 3 screws. It's set up using an app on either an Android device or an iOS device. I guess the setup takes about 2 minutes. The installation time is about 10 minutes. The paperwork actually takes longer. So filling in the 337, that's probably about a 30-minute exercise. So
the paperwork takes more than the installation.
Indeed,
you gotta love that.
And the beauty of this is it's not a self-install. It must be installed at the very minimum by an A&P, signed off by an IA. But you don't have to go to one of the big shops or facilities. We're actually building a QI network, which is we're calling a qualified installer network. And so anyone that has an A&P IA certification can actually sign up with us. They get discounted pricing and the ability to communicate with us in terms of support. So it's a nice thing for those guys. The lesser installers, it frees up some of the shop time and enables essentially installations just to take place on a ramp. We're not taking up hangar space.
Okay. But more important, though, it does get them to the shop. And once they get them to the shop, that's a whole different ballgame for these guys.
Without a doubt, yes,
that's what they got to realize.
For sure.
Yeah, because I've listened to a few folks. It doesn't take enough time.
Well, I've had that comment here, but the other interesting thing is because of the product, because it is so cost effective. It's certainly in the lesser price brackets for an ADSB out solution. I've had several guys come up to me today and say, I've got a big $30,000 install, I'm going to do a big glass cockpit. I don't have the time to get them in. I need them compliant. They need to be flying. For $2,000 or under $2,000, we can do that too.
Yep.
And then they can go back in March, April next year, get their big avionics upgrade, and so it can also be a stopgap, you know.
I got to ask you, where the hell did this idea come from?
Our CEO
this is insane.
So Paul Beard, amazing man. He has over 60 patents to his name. He's an aircraft owner, and I think the foray into the micro avionics, the micro transponders and WAAS GPSs for unmanned systems was really a focus. And as an aircraft owner and a pilot, he wanted to get a cost-effective solution out there, and that was the Sky Beacon.
The ultimate question is, how do you top this?
I don't know. I'd love to have an answer. I mean, we're a young emerging company. We're very innovative, a lot of passion about aviation. So we're going to look for the next big thing out there, without a doubt. I think the next big thing will be a miniaturized 1090 solution, and then the world is our oyster.
Outstanding.
We're very excited.
What are you learning from your users?
So we're getting great responses. Lots of the PAPR tests and flight tests have been successful. They found the installation experience very easy, very cost effective, light in the pocket, so to speak. They're not spending lots of dollars to get the install done. Generally, for the most part, anything between $100, $200 for a standard installation. That's when you're just switching out the light. In terms of user experience, once it's installed, that's it. It's job done. It's very user friendly. There's no integration. You're not breaking into the other avionics. It's a fit install, get compliance, and that's your solution.
As you alluded, you have a presence in the unmanned community as well as other aspects of experimental and general aviation. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of your activities in that area?
Sure. So certainly for the experimental side, we have several products. The Echo UAT is very popular, certainly with experimental owners. It's an ADSB in and out 978 1090 device. Again, a very easy install. It's miniature. It's no bigger than a pack of playing cards. It's tiny. There's a couple of options there for the WAAS antenna. You can have an external, it's an integral WAAS GPS with WAAS antenna combined. Obviously sits on externally on the fuselage of the aircraft, or we have a remote antenna option. So that's certainly very popular. We also have the right-hand wingtip device there, which is the Sky Sensor. So that gives you the green fixed position light.
Gotcha.
It gives you strobe lights, but it also gives you ADSB in. So it will communicate via Wi-Fi to a tablet or Android Apple device in the cockpit and give the owner traffic and weather.
Outstanding.
With the UAV side, the unmanned side, we still have a vast range of ADSB ADSB out solutions, and also transponders, miniaturized transponders and GPSs, the Ping 200 to 200 SIs.
Talk about an interesting market. We've been, of course, we do the programming for AUVSI and AMA and a number of others within the unmanned segment. And the thing that just takes our breath away every time we dive into, what are this week's program's topics, is just the amount of activity in that segment of the industry.
I mean, it's growing. It's incredible. I mean, we'll be at all the unmanned shows, focusing on obviously our UAV products, but it's growing. It's going at a crazy rate. Obviously, we understand that. We're certainly at the forefront of it, and intend to be going forward. It is a crazy time. It is.
And then on top of it, they're able to pull in phenomenal resources. They are driving some very serious money into that aspect
Indeed.
of the business. You got to love it.
Well, you look at the likes of Amazon, Google.
Yeah.
They're big players, and they certainly have that desire, and they're certainly driving the unmanned world out there. So yeah, we're certainly looking to assist those guys.
The part that's exciting about it is they're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to find
They're
out
not.
what doesn't work before they get to what does work, and ultimately that's how you really build a new industry.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
it's going
for
to be
sure.
interesting to see what comes of all that as we go forward. How do people get more information on the product line?
So obviously we have a website, uavionics.com. That's uavionics.com. All of our information is there digitally. You've got all our STC information. You have our installation information, and obviously you have the ability to purchase products directly through us. You could also go through one of our resellers, which we have a multitude of Part 145 shops and facilities that are selling our products. We also have 2 major stocking distributors. We use Edmo and Dallas Avionics.
Okay.
They have products on shelf, and so that's probably the easiest way. MSRP for the Sky Beacon is $18.49. And when the tail beacon has achieved its TSO, so in the next couple of weeks, that'll be retailing at $19.99.
Okay, very good. Still an amazing device, and you just really got to wonder ultimately what kind of ideas and what kind of drinking party led to something like this, because in no uncertain terms, this is,
I mean,
it's
really
inspired.
is. It's groundbreaking. It's so innovative. It's like nothing else out there, as you're
And the
aware.
best part is it's just a little bit crazy, and aviators love a little
But that's
bit crazy.
good, you know.
Yes,
It is,
great.
or geeky, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very geeky. Very, very geeky. No question about it. Alrighty, we've been talking to Hayden Clark, Director of Business Development for GA Products at UAvionics. We're going to take a hard break here and come up with the Artex ACR folks and talk about technologies that ultimately you don't ever want to use until you really, really need them. Following that, Rick Perry, VP of Government and Industry Affairs for AEA, will close out the day with us, and then we'll have a few parting remarks before we try to pack all this up, head back to our respective homes, breathe for all of 2 or 3 days, and then head to Lakeland and Sun and Fun.
Yep.
God help us all. We'll be back in just a few moments. This is the Aero-News Network live from the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show in Palm Springs, California at the Palm Springs Convention Center. Be right back.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
It's called AirText Plus. The mobile office is now a true, cost-effective win-win reality because being available and part of the communication chain keeps you in control. Visit us at www.airtext.aero for more information and get started staying in touch today.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
The dream is real, a truly affordable personal jet aircraft. The Subsonics Personal Jet Kit is priced at only $42,000. Kit plus engine is still under $100K. Add instruments, upholstery, and paint and you're flying. It's time to put your money where your bucket list is. Learn more at sonicsaircraft.com.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
For all the pilots, mechanics, and installers, plane makers, aviators, and explorers, we are your technicians, inspectors, designers, and engineers. Your right seat, your compass, your base. So rock your wings, slice the horizon, set your own course. Know that we'll be there. Our expertise reflected in each instrument we rebuild or repair. In the products we design, reimagine, and invent. We certify and test, evaluate and inspect. In the power we harness from tip to tail, we connect you and protect you. So blaze your own trail, because our people, our products, our promise flies with you. We are Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics. It's who we are. It's what we do.
Based on the popular Sling II LSA, the Sling IV was designed to be the most practical and desirable lightweight four-place experimental aircraft on the market. Find out more about this 115 horsepower turbocharged airplane at airplanefactory.com.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Alrighty, folks, we are back. Hope you enjoyed the break. We're back with Jeff Geraci, Artex ACR. He's the VP of Global Sales. This is the guy you don't necessarily want to know that you need until you really need him.
Best product we hope you never use.
Bingo. Yeah, this is, you're hoping for it, but for those of us who've been on the ragged edge a couple of times, we're just going, yeah, I hope that works. Yes. So we shall see. Jeff, tell me what's new with Artex ACR.
Well, just this month, we introduced a replacement for the ever-popular Rescue Link personal locator beacon. So this is a beacon that can be used in the aircraft, the boat, hiking. And we've come out with a new product, which is the PLB 400 and the PLB View. So the unique items of this is the release of the antenna is redesigned. It's much easier to deploy the antenna. It has an infrared strobe as well as a daytime strobe, and it has multiple GPS acquisition units. So it's a much more accurate device. It's a more elegant device. It's all buoyant, whereas before you had to have different back pieces to make it buoyant. It's all buoyant. It has attachments, so you can attach it to your PFD. So it's a much better design. With the View, you have a small window, and this would indicate GPS is sent. It gives an indication to the user that yes, my signal went out and it's gone to Cospet SARSAT and to the rescue services, and help is on the way.
There you go.
So it's another indication that your unit has worked. So we're really excited about this. Once again, these are used in land and marine, also in aviation. So we have a lot of a great prospect for that product. Last time we spoke, which was at AEA last year, we had introduced ELT 4000. The unique part of this device is that it is the first alkaline 406 beacon produced. And we had just introduced it, and I'm proud to say that we have 5 major placements, including Bombardier, Gulfstream, and Cessna, and also Bell Helicopter. And we are looking forward to many more. Once again, this alleviates the issue of lithium special conditions, which mandates you have to encapsulate your ELT to minimize any event of lithium runaway, but this makes it exempt because it's using alkaline chemistry, so it doesn't have any of those idiosyncrasies or compliance paths. So that has been going well. So that's just an update on a product that we introduced last year. Another item I'd like to discuss is we have a lot of legacy ELTs that have 121.5 or 243 megahertz only. So they were prior to the 406 mandate, but in the United States and Canada, these ELTs are still available for use. As long as they test, you can still use the ELT in your aircraft. The Bahamas recently mandated you can't, Mexico, all the rest of the world basically has mandated 406. The United States and Canada are the only 2 countries left. We've been producing the batteries for these units for the past, it's almost 30 years now, 25 years. The units were originally introduced in 1984. We've been continually making batteries to support the customer, but we've run into some issues with obsolescence of the parts to make the batteries. Additionally, there was the FCC has given language, very strong language, indicating they want the frequency back for non-aviation use, and they are pushing also the obsolescence of these devices as well through the FAA. Although we don't have a mandate to remove the devices, ACR has taken the position to obsolete the battery systems for the ELTs at the end of 2019. So what this means is that at the end of 2019, you'll have a last opportunity to buy these batteries, and you're on a 2-year clock to remove the ELT. So the 110.4 and the ELT200 are the most popular units. We still have 16,000 of these units in the field in all different types of aircraft. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to offer to the customers in a way to help the customer through this transition. We're going to buy back their old unit and offer them an incentive to stay with ACR Artex and buy one of our products and replace it. So we have various information and coordination memos to help the customer define what they have now, what they can reuse, and what they have to replace as they make this important transition to 406. So we wanted to keep going as long as we could with the batteries, but at some point you have to realize obsolescence because the parts are just so old. You know, when you have that long of a run with electronics, it eventually comes to an end.
How is the pilot community responding to this?
So far, I've been talking to a lot of the owners. I've been also talking to installers. Everyone is somewhat supportive. The replacement has started a long time ago. So in 2013, we stopped being able to repair the unit. We just kept making the batteries. So there's been a steady attrition rate. I'm sure that we'll have some resistance. An ELT is not an elegant device. No one says, wow, I'd really like to have a new ELT. It's something you must have. It's a mandated product.
It's certainly not the first on the list.
It's back there.
Yeah.
But we, with a life-saving device, we want to make sure that we have as good a possible chance that you make it back from something that you might not have made back if you didn't have that equipment. So I think the pilot community, there will be some resistance. We understand that. We hope that the incentive program and us putting our money where our mouth is will help soothe that. But it's a move that we have to make, and once again, the FCC, there is support for it moving forward. We think there would have been an FAA mandate if it would not have been for ADS-B. There's a lot of mandates going on, and I don't feel that the FAA wanted to pile on, which I think was a very good move. Let the units go out through attrition. We're just speeding up that attrition through the obsolescence of the batteries.
What doesn't the pilot community know about ELT technology that they really need to know now?
So NASA has been doing an awful lot of testing on how an ELT works. Why it doesn't work, I think, is even a more important fact. So as we look at
interesting idea,
they did some testing, and they had aircraft, and they crashed the aircraft and simulated mishaps, and told us an awful lot about G switches, activation, and all that. So what I would say is make sure your installation is correct. Make sure your substrate is strong enough that the unit will realize it's the G's when it has to do its work. And also, you must test the ELT on an annual basis, especially the crash activation system. The G-switch has a lot of vibration, it's sitting in the aircraft doing nothing. You need to test that activation system on an annual basis. So I'd say in order for this to work, we have to maintain it correctly, and we have to make sure it's installed correctly. And I think there's a lot of data that we're seeing that some installs are not correct, and that leads to the inability of the device to do its work.
It's a shame there isn't, or maybe there is somewhere that I'm not aware of, a concept of an ELT audit, so to speak, to look at the condition of our aircraft, our systems, and whether or not we're really in position to take advantage of all the technologies available to us.
That's an interesting concept. I think ELT, when we think about ELT and the fact that it is mandated and it's not very glamorous, a lot of people don't consider it to be important to flight. And we are a design assurance level D. You know, if it does not function, the aircraft will not have any adverse effects. But there is a lot of technology with ELT. There's smaller, lighter, there's different activation systems, portable. There is a need, I believe, for education. I do understand exactly what you're saying. It's a simple device, and when I first came to ELT, I thought it was an incredibly simple device. I've learned that it's actually quite a complicated device in its options, in how it's used and how it's installed. So yes, education would be, or some sort of an audit or a safety check or list, or you know, here's what you should be doing with this particular installation or scenario would be helpful. Well,
for somebody who's flown, I've flown all over the world in a variety of different types of aircraft. There's been a couple of times where I realized that if I was about to have a problem with an aircraft, I was in a world of hurt. I was in the boonies. Whether it be places in Alaska, places in the Middle East, there's some areas in South America where, you know, you're obviously never going to be found again. Where this kind of technology all of a sudden becomes, okay, is my battery up to date? Is everything working? And you don't think about it when you kick the tires and head on out. And it's something we should be thinking about more and more. And yet at the same time, Joe Blow in his little Cessna 150 running through, you know, north of the Okefenokee Swamp certainly wants to be found in a hurry.
It is, and all of our systems, when we make all of our Tex ELTs, support a self-test every month. So we have enough power within the battery system to support a self-test every month. You go in, you do a self-test, it'll tell you your battery, it'll tell you your power, it'll tell you if you have GPS, it'll tell you if your G-switch is working. All of the self-test is the easiest way to ascertain the viability of the product on a monthly basis. A lot of people don't do a self-test but once a year during that annual, or when they replace the battery. The requirement is on an annual basis, but I would say that we need to educate to where maybe more self-test. It's a very simple self-test. A lot of owners, they don't want to do it because if I have an issue, then I'm on the clock for the MEL. But it's important to self-test.
Let's go back to where we started out for a little bit with PLBs. There's no question, especially for those who are knowingly working in territory or working in environments that could put them at risk, that this is an additional insurance policy.
And a very inexpensive one.
Good point. What is it that people need to know when they're selecting a PLB? What is it that you really want them to do? What is, for lack of a better way to put it, the minimum equipment list for a PLB?
So for a PLB, they all behave identical to an ELT. They transmit 406 for 24 hours. They transmit 121.5 for 48 hours. So they all do the same thing. They talk to COTS set, you register with NOAA. So now we're down to form factor. So the question is, do you need it to float? Are you looking for something that's smaller that fits into your vest, what have you? Do you want the ability to have strobes? And do you want to have the additional feature of the GPS sent acknowledgement and that type of messaging from the device? It's really about convenience and also form factor. Do you want to have a way to affix it? You know, this is a smaller device, but it doesn't have a way to affix it to the vest. So it's really about form factor. After that, it's about battery life and warranty. So 6-year battery, 3-year warranty, or the company behind it. How good is this beacon going to behave when I really need it? And so ACR, with its history of making beacons, the Rescue Link is the most popular beacon ever made. We have sold more of these products than any other beacon is sold of any type. So we know how to do beacons. It is our primary mission is beacons. So you know that ACR has the technology, it has the manufacturing capability, and quite frankly the quality systems to ensure that this device, although it's only $300 or $250,
really?
It functions correctly. Yes.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay. Wasn't aware they were that
so this,
inexpensive.
yes, $299 and $350 is the pricing
I'll
for
be
these.
darned.
Yep. So if you divide that by 6 years, you have a fairly inexpensive insurance policy per year.
Outstanding.
And the antenna, it's easy to deploy. You can do it one-handed, and away you go.
Okay.
So we feel that at Artex, so let's say that you have an ELT, and your ELT, you have a mishap, and the antenna is severed from the aircraft, and you have this, or the aircraft sinks, the aircraft is on fire. These two put together...
Or you've got to try to find a way to get out of where you are.
Exactly. These two devices put together, what we think is what we call the perfect combo, and that's one of our giveaways at the shows. We feel that this combination of product, you've checked the box for safety.
Mm-hmm.
You've done all that you can do to have a rescue, effect a rescue. And those two together is a powerful rescue solution.
Interesting.
Right. Not just products, but a solution.
On the PLB side of things, for those of my friends in the sport aviation arena who are flying machines that have a tendency to have more than their share of engine failures and get stuck in the boonies and things of that nature, this sounds like a really cheap insurance policy.
It is insurance, and if you're taking a long trip, if you're flying abroad,
yeah.
Whatever you're doing, it also goes with you. It is a personal beacon. It can be used in many different scenarios. But you're right. If you're doing that type of sport flying, if you're doing backwoods stuff, you'd want to have it.
Or for that matter, I was traveling once in a little machine on the way out to Mojave, or actually from Mojave, working my way west, and actually through a prop. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, walking a couple of miles through the Mojave is not my idea of a good time.
No.
And had it not been a particularly better time of year than it would otherwise have been, it would have been really ugly.
Right.
So, but this technology wasn't available at the time I had that incident. That was in the 80s. So
yeah, that was just as the PLB was starting to come into the market. And in the early PLBs were very large devices. Yeah.
How do people get educated on this? What resources can you provide for them to not only make sure that their ELT technology is up to date, but see whether or not a PLB is a solution for them?
Well, the website is a great place to go, acrartex.com, and it has a lot of information on how PLBs are used, who is the typical PLB customer, and a lot of our customers will run into this product at REI or Bass Pro Shops. A lot of the sporting goods are starting to have these products as well. So they're not as mysterious as they once were. But once again, if you have a question, you're welcome to call ACR. We'll talk to you, as well as the website. But also an authorized retailer, West Marine retailers, they're very well versed in beacon technology, as this has been a part of their world for an awful long time, the PLB, much like ELT has been a part of aviation.
Outstanding. Jeff, you've been a really great guest here. We sure appreciate your time. We'll look forward to catching up with you down the line, and you and I need to have a little bit longer discussion about this, because I think there's some stories here that ultimately would serve the community by being able to get more information out to them on both sides of the fence. So
it sounds
thank
good.
You very much
thank
for
you
your
so
time.
much, Jim. I really appreciate it.
And once again, tell people how they can get more information on ACR and Artex ACR. Yeah.
Those guys. So acrartex.com. Just go ahead and Google us and look for PLB. We always come up first for PLB. It's a lot of what we do, and that's an easy way to find out more information on PLBs and also Artex branded beacons. Thank you.
Alrighty, folks. We will be back in just a few moments. We're getting ready to put Rick Perry in the batter's box here. He'll be clean up. And we will be completing our third day of live coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show in Palm Springs, California. We'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, we are bottom of the ninth. I am pleased to present Rick Perry, VP for Government Industry Affairs of AEA, who has a new boss.
I do.
Get along with the guy? I understand he's just a real prima donna type.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. He keeps talking about hard shoes to fill from as far as what Paul has left behind, but we haven't seen him in the heels yet, so I don't know.
I know.
No, I'll tell you what, he's an inspired choice. We're going to have a lot of fun breaking him in.
Yep.
But let's get down to brass tacks here. You are Mr. Regulation for AEA. You've done extraordinary work in puzzling through all of Washington and various foreign governments' chicanery. But right now, there's this real interesting discussion going on about criminalizing and politicizing the certification process, where it may have gone right, may have gone wrong, but nobody knows because no facts are really in evidence yet, but everybody wants a solution now, damn it, now. But it's scarier than hell for the folks whose livelihoods and literally lives depend on certification to think that some political know-it-all who can barely spell aileron is going to be mucking up the process.
Yep.
Take it away, Rick Perry.
Well, that's a heck of a lead-in, thank you.
Hey, anytime, anything for a friend.
You know, I think the challenge that you face is that, as you said, first of all, we don't have the facts.
Yeah.
We don't even have the data reports from the flight data recorder or the cockpit voice recorder. So this is all 100% hypothetical.
It's interesting that none of that stuff has shown up yet.
Well, and unfortunately, no kidding.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge we face is that, you know, you've got the politicians on one side, and you've got the public for a lot of it that say, oh my goodness, there is an airplane, and everybody assumes that all airplanes are the same. However, the airplane may be built the same, but it is flown differently. And you have to look at all of the pieces of the puzzle before you can really find out what is the piece that, for whatever reason, may or may not have been, quote, certified properly. Is it the aircraft? Is it the flight operations? Is it the pilot? Each of those elements have a distinct part to play in this unfortunate outcome. But let's focus on the certification, okay? We have arguably a new technology. There's no indication that that new technology was not certified properly. There's no indication that the I's weren't crossed, or the I's weren't dotted, the T's weren't crossed, and that anybody shortchanged the system. Now, we know there's cause and effect, and there may have been a breakdown between the physical certification and possibly flight training, or between the physical certification and the data in the flight manual. We've seen that before. That's not terribly unusual. And we correct it. But there's no indication that the certification itself was deficient.
Especially when you do just a rote statistical analysis of where aviation safety sits right now,
right?
Realizing that even with these horrible stats of the last few weeks, we have never been safer.
Right. It's you know, the engineering and certification process, and I sit on a number of committees that work on this. We're constantly process improvement. You have engineers within the FAA who are migrating from system engineers to process auditors for a number of reasons. You look around this exhibit hall, okay? Mm-hmm. You look at the technology, you look at the new product demonstration on Monday. How does any one individual become a subject matter expert on everything that was introduced at the new product demonstration? That's unrealistic.
It's impossible.
It is impossible. So the FAA, in their wisdom, recognize they have to rely on subject matter experts to be able to truly understand these new technologies. And they are, in fact, the designees. They work well, they do well, and they are absolutely the subject matter experts.
One of the things that bothers me about the current general media assault on all this, and as somebody who's worked with Boeing on a number of projects and as a consultant and so forth, Boeing, no matter what the balance book may tell you, the most important aspect of Boeing in regards to safety is a Boeing lawyer. They are not going to let anybody do anything stupid. I've met a few of these men and women. They're vicious. They are out to do anything they possibly can to protect Boeing, and the best way they can protect Boeing is make sure that they're building the safest product possible. A lot of these guys and gals are engineers, they're pilots, they know what they're talking about. And does anybody really believe that any of these companies are going to sustain multi-million-dollar losses because they think they're going to shave a couple of dollars off here and there? Ridiculous.
There's a fundamental missing here,
yeah.
Okay? And that is, I don't care who your business is. Boeing, these manufacturers are repair stations. It doesn't matter. There is a fundamental to business. Safety is good business.
It is.
Accidents and incidents are simply bad business.
Yes.
With or without the FAA and with or without the safety regulators, and I don't want to take anything away from their job, but the reality is there is nobody in this industry that wakes up in the morning and goes, I think I'm going to cheat. I'm not worried about it. Everybody's here. This is good business. Boeing is a good company. They exercise good business. There was nothing shady going on. I'm confident of that. It was something that, you know, the pieces didn't connect in the puzzle.
Unreal.
Yep.
Unreal. Do you see the potential for damage done to this industry as a result of this kind of hysteria?
Always. Okay. The pendulum swings, and you know, unfortunately, you know, we end up with something that's focused on heavy transport aircraft, commercial air transport, and that pendulum swing and picks up general aviation on the way. The good news is that when the data comes out, and I feel confident that both the FAA and the Department of Transportation will have the time and ability to truly look through the system. When that comes out, I think that the entire designee system will be exonerated. It'll be old news, and we'll move on. They will find the technical glitches that may have been something that needed higher scrutiny. But one of the things that's interesting
let's face it, you don't have a product truly certified until it gets in the hands of the great unwashed public and the operators.
Exactly. But on top of this, the certification plan, that is that checklist. What is it that I'm going to look at? What's the depth that I'm going to look at these things? All of those aren't delegated.
No.
Those are inherently governmental. So the FAA is already establishing that stuff. It's only the showing how we did this that the designee participates in. And so the reality is, it's really a stretch. It's really a stretch. I think it'll be fine. We will see probably over the next 6 months a pretty cautious approach to things. So a lot of the products that are in the pipeline right now will probably end up with a little bit longer pipeline. But when the dust settles, I have faith that you know, the good will prevail, and we'll be fine.
Let's take on something a bit more pleasant.
Good.
The avionics industry over the past couple of years, in its interface with the FAA and with certification standards that have evolved, has allowed a level of innovation that we've never seen before, and allowed a number of new products to come to fore that we're in the bailiwick of the experimental industry. It has also lowered costs. It has forced certain manufacturers to realize, okay, I can't quite get $1 bazillion for it anymore. I'm going to have to settle for $500 million.
Sure.
How is that coming along? Was this part of a truly evolutionary process, or did somebody really turn us about?
It was an evolutionary process, okay? And
this is where you and I disagree, but go ahead.
It's okay. We will agree to disagree here.
Yes, that's half the fun.
Mostly because understand that I've been an active participant in this one.
Oh yeah.
For the entire spectrum.
Yes.
30 years ago, we were certifying things very similarly to how we're certifying them today.
Okay.
It was that 30-year gap in between that we lost our way. Okay?
Okay.
So what happened was, 30 years ago, the migration of electronics was top-down. So when you look at the TSOs are typically driven to the highest expected level of application. So the TSOs are written for large commercial airplanes with large commercial applications. As you come down through that process, when we had analog systems, you didn't notice it because all you were doing was making analog systems a little bit smaller. And you made them smaller and lighter so they fit in general aviation airplanes. But it was a downward migration. With the invention of the PC, the microprocessor, our cell phones, our tablets, and all that technology, what we started to see was an upward migration of technology. Well, the problem with that was when you have a top-down approach to digital technology, now you're driving this digital technology certification as if everything is going into an Airbus 380 or a Boeing 787. Clearly driving these products outside of the price point for general aviation. So something had to give. They did not change the certification standards. They did not change what we're certifying. What they did change was how we're certifying. So instead of certifying it at the TSO level of a large commercial airplane, we're able to certify it for the intended purpose under PMA, Parts Manufacturing Authority. Both of them approved parts, both of them certified. Both of them demonstrated compliance to the regulatory process. But the standards for a light single-engine piston are significantly different than a 40,000-foot large commercial aircraft. That's all that took place.
Okay. I still think...
You're thinking.
I still think, you know, it's funny, I'm not the FAA's best spokesperson and have not been by and large, but I think, especially under Mike Huerta and followed through a little bit by Dan Elwell, I think they nudged it in a couple of directions where there was resistance, where the evolutionary wasn't taking place. And I got that feeling from people I was talking to that there were areas where it could have been stopped and it wasn't. So
that's not to say that the pendulum didn't overswing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm not disputing that. Anytime you have a transitional process, you have that swing goes maybe a little bit too far. But notwithstanding that, the fundamental is there. And there's products that have been certified that was an overstretch of regulation that was corrected afterwards and it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
Okay? However, it wasn't the demonstration of conformity that wasn't done. It was simply the methodology that was followed. Now, understand that these rules, the regulations did not change, okay? We were never prohibited from doing what we're doing today. But there was a philosophical shift because everybody over the last 30 years, and realizing that we're dealing with a very entrenched bureaucracy, So coming out of 30 years ago, we had a very established comfort zone. So everybody goes, oh, we're going to do what's comfortable. Well, and it was the leadership of the FAA that said, get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
The rules give us a lot of flexibility. They give us a lot of opportunity. We need to use the rules to get safety enhancing equipment into these aircraft, because I can't put a large Boeing or Airbus panel in a 172. I can't justify it. But I can put a 172 panel in a 172. Now I can't put the 172 panel in Boeing, okay, which is fine. But up until we had this transformation, most of the parts that I was buying for my 172 could be sold for a 737.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Rick, unfortunately, we're running out of time already. I've always enjoyed the fact that we tend to finish up the day throughout the end of these conventions with you. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next year brings, especially in light of some of the politicization. We'll have to stay in touch.
Yep.
Keep me up to date, anything you think important. Any last words?
No, I think we're in a great place. I think this show this year shows that.
Oh boy, does it ever.
The new product demonstration is absolutely unbelievable, and you know, I watch the new products, and I've got almost 5 decades in aviation now, and I get pretty excited coming here. Reality is things are good. Don't let the politics overpower you. I have a lot of faith in DOT and the FAA. You know, we'll find out what's wrong with the system, and we'll make adjustments to the system, just like we make adjustments to our equipment. Okay, and we'll move forward, and I feel very confident about that.
Rick, thanks so much for everything.
You bet.
Rick Perry, AEA's expert about everything regulation and politics, and a person we've relied on over the course of many years to get to the nitty-gritty of what's going on out there in Washington and elsewhere, and we sure appreciate the time. And guess what, folks? We have reached nearly the end of 3 days of live programming from the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show in Palm Springs, California. It's been a great event. We have witnessed the handover from Paula Dirks to Mike Adamson. We've watched Gary Joyce take over as the chairman of the board. We watched nearly 30 new product introductions, or technically nearly 30 companies, and well over 40, almost 50 product introductions. And more important than anything, we've watched a vibrant, innovative, disruptive industry continue to be vibrant, innovative, and disruptive, and we love that part more than anything else. We have completed our 11th year of live streaming, over 20 years of coverage for Aero-News, and we sure appreciate the opportunity to work with the best of the best, Rick included. Paula, Mike, the gang, so many, Jeff, who I harass on a regular basis, and we sure appreciate all of their support and help. As we close, thank you to Nathan Cremasino, who is the man behind the curtain, who makes this happen. There's no way this happens without Nathan, and no matter how much we abuse him, no matter how hard we try to get in his way, he gets it done no matter what. We're pleased to welcome for the first time in on the road with Aero-News, Sophie Herlock, who has recently taken over as the host of our airborne programming and is working the cameras today. Mike Turner has been helping us keep the program online and yelling at me whenever I start getting a little bit over time. Of course, my wife Masako runs the show, tells me what to do, and I obey obediently. Tom Patton is back at the office getting the news out, so forth and so on. A couple of quick news items and we'll close. Recently I had a kind of an interesting thing happen. I was asked to take over the Bob Hoover Legacy Foundation. I became its executive director a couple of months ago. It's been an extraordinary journey so far. Twice as much work, 4 times as much fun, and I'm working with people who loved Bob, love his mission, and really want the future of aviation to mirror what Bob hoped for the best of in us all. We've got some great ideas. We've been doing some great work in scholarships where we've got museum and learning and teaching programs. And then on top of it, they've given me permission to put together a program which I'm particularly excited about, which is to petition the United States Postal Service for a commemorative stamp on what will be Bob's 100th birthday in January of 2022. We've got a little bit under 3 years to get that done and bring the industry together behind an uncommon man with uncommon principles, and we're really excited about that. From here, we leave tomorrow morning. Some of us tonight, we head for Lakeland, Florida. Sun and Fun Flying starts on April 2nd through the 7th. We will be there, as will the Bob Hoover Legacy Foundation. My wife will be running the booth there for that. On top of that, our unparalleled, there's just no other word for it, April 1st episode comes up this Monday. And as you know, we didn't do it last year because it occurred, April 1st happened just a few days after the passing of my dad, and let's face it, none of us were in the mood. But this year we have made up for it. You will see insanity like you've never seen. And oh yeah, you guys got nailed.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Oh no.
Wait till you see what we did at ADSB 2020. It's horrible, and it's wonderful at the same time. So, to all the folks who watched us, thank you. To my crew, who has been extraordinary, outside of the bar bill, we'll talk about that later. And to all the folks at AEA who have supported us so well, we thank you. We will see you in Nashville next year,
yes,
which will be our 12th bite at the apple. And we look forward to bringing you news, information, excitement, all the great things about aviation every day through Aero-News, Airborne, Aero TV, and everything else. So, for the 62nd Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show, I'm Jim Campbell. This is Rick Perry. There's some great people on both sides of the cameras, and Nathan in the back. We thank you so much, and we will see you here next year.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
It's called AirText Plus. The mobile office is now a true, cost-effective win-win reality because being available and part of the communication chain keeps you in control. Visit us at www.airtext.aero for more information and get started staying in touch today.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Based on the popular Sling 2 LSA, the Sling 4 was designed to be the most practical and desirable lightweight four-place experimental aircraft on the market. Find out more about this 115 horsepower turbocharged airplane at airplanefactory.com.
The dream is real, a truly affordable personal jet aircraft. The Subsonics Personal Jet Kit is priced at only $42,000. Kit plus engine is still under $100K. Add instruments, upholstery, and paint and you're flying. It's time to put your money where your bucket list is. Learn more at sonicsaircraft.com.